shows have been brought back for centuries now. In the early 2000s, it was really rare. IP was not as valuable as it was now. If anything, sequels had like negative connotations behind them. People would just have new shows, new movies. Like, if something was based off an IP, it almost seemed cheaper. The early 2010s is when we really started to take on this concept of reviving a show. Not just taking the actors and putting them on a new show to kind of redevelop their chemistry, but literally taking from where the previous show left off with everything still kind of intact for the most part. One of the more controversial ones and the bigger deals of this current decade is the iCarly 2021 reboot, especially since the regular iCarly stood such a good test of time. So today we're going to be going over the new revival of iCarly, iCarly 2021. And we're going to cross-compare it to its original show and kind of see what it did better and how it improved upon the show and the reasons it's kind of awkward. So strap in because this video is going to be a long one. Now let's get into the new lore of iCarly. What's up everybody, it's Johnny2000, focusing on 2000s movies, media, TV, movies, and so much more. I'm gonna try to do another video about revivals and reboots in general because there is just way beyond too many to name, but I did want to talk about the ones that were relevant to this show. So we have full-on sequel successors, which is what iCarly is, a sequel to the series, taking exactly from where it left off. Those are shows like Fairly Odd Parents: A New Wish. Not sure if you guys saw my video on that, but they didn't have to get rid of anything. They just kind of continued the Timmy Turner story without Timmy Turner. And Cosmo and Wanda are the way it's continued. Same thing with Wizards Beyond Waverly Place. It's following a new girl instead of Alex Russo, and everything is kind of continuing after the fact. That 90s show also did the same thing. It took that 70s show and just went on 20 years later. And of course, Sex and the City had their show, And Just Like That, which actually took place after Sex and the City. These are more akin to the iCarly situation because they're all the same in that sense. But like I said, before sequel series ended up being the new thing, we used to have spiritual successors, which aren't exactly the new show, but the same dynamic and the same concept trying to be a new show. For example, if we're looking back at what we looked at, that 70s show actually had a sequel before, that 80s show, and instead of having any cast returns or anything, they just put in new characters. They were trying to spiritually success that show through its character chemistry, trying to avoid a sequel series because they knew it wasn't cool at the time. Oh, a similar show that comes to mind is Young and Hungry, a star from teen TV taking the adaptation into adult media, with Emily Osment from Hannah Montana essentially keeping her quirky character vibe and creating a new IP out of it. That easily could have been like a Hannah Montana sequel. You could have easily made it a sequel series where Lily is just at a new house, but they chose to go a new direction. Something that's adjacent to the iCarly situation, but that show ended up better than a Hannah Montana revival could have been. Same thing with What I Like About You. Amanda Bynes was originally on all that, The Amanda Show, and while they easily could have taken the Amanda character and had her be the one of the main character of What I Like About You, they just had her quirky vibe lead the show, and it felt kind of like a spiritual successor to The Amanda Show. I consider these like successes of a spiritual successor. One more to be clear on what that is. King of Queens, which was a sitcom about Kevin James, had another show called Kevin Can Wait, and it was essentially the same character, and they brought back pretty much the original actors from that show, even though it was a completely different show, and effectively avoided anything the original series had to offer. I feel like there's a reason for spiritual successors and sequel successors, but all of them kind of revolve around the public opinion of what is okay to continue. The reason I want to go over all of those shows I just mentioned was because I need a form of reference as to how the quality of iCarly really matches up. All the examples I've given are shows I actually really like, and would consider doing the show justice. Whether spiritual or sequel, like they kept the chemistry that kept the original show alive. I feel like iCarly fails a lot at that, like a lot. In terms of the kids show realm, we think about shows like Girl Meets World, the sequel to Boy Meets World. Clearly that's not a spiritual one, that is a complete sequel. And they took on a whole new concept and made it unique to themselves without necessarily needing to be a copy and paste of the original show, something I consider really well done. But in this case with iCarly, it's a little weird because it's that adult jump, where What I Like About You and Young and Hungry didn't need to make their original shows like raunchy. They essentially started from ground zero with a new series. Girl Meets World didn't make the transition into adult humor, they just kept the original audiences in mind for that. That 90s show was originally a little gaudy anyway, so they could just keep everything intact. But iCarly is doing the big risk. They're taking the original show's concept and putting it in the adult world without changing any of the characters. For the most part, it's done in a really effective and funny way, but sometimes things feel a little shoehorned. But for me, the thing that really makes the new iCarly series successful is its audience. I don't always prefer the meta jokes, rehashing a lot of the same plot lines, and limitations of evolving the character too much so that way people remember the original show. But since it's so committed to its audience, like me and the people we grew up with it, like, it's hard to avoid that stuff. Like, that is the stuff that we actually are going to watch. A show that doesn't take itself too seriously, but still embodies the original show, and it kinda does exactly that. A lot of people that have reviewed this show before, or even iCarly, like Quentin Reviews, have had a lot to say about this show, why it continued, why it shouldn't have or should have continued. Like, I just kind of want to compare it to what it could have been versus what it didn't be. What it didn't been or could have been, be. You guys know what I mean. I'm gonna also need to reference famous sitcoms like The Big Bang Theory, 2.5 Men, Malcolm in the Middle, and Friends, of course, to actually talk about what a sitcom could be at its best. Because iCarly isn't just a sequel to a good sitcom, it needs to be a good sitcom. So I don't need to go easy on these guys in terms of that. Like, I wish they just made sure that was the case. Now, before we jump into episode 1, let's start with the iCarly season 1 standard from the original show. Like, the best and worst of iCarly. That way there's a better standard for what is good in the iCarly universe or bad in the iCarly universe. Like, for example, I feel like iCarly at its peak in the first season is definitely the episode, season 1, episode 5, I Wanna Stay with Spencer. And that was a really funny episode. It was early in the series run, after the pilot, after I Dream of Dance, after we kind of got a feel for what Carly and Sam were trying to do with their web show, trying to popularize it and deal with all this online chaos. And in this, the plot was basically, during the web show, Spencer had a wheel of rotating hammers. It almost hit Carly live on the air, and obviously he felt really bad, and it's focused a lot on Spencer and his role as an adult in the world. If you know me, he's one of my favorite characters, which is 100% why I'm anchored to this show in the first place. So I thought this would be the perfect example of what iCarly does best. In the episode, Deshay's grandfather visits from Yakima, explaining that he is there to take Carly to live with him instead of Spencer, because, you know, he's just pretty irresponsible. Which is fair, she almost died live on TV. Like, I would be a little embarrassed. Carly really doesn't want this to happen, so she pushes back as much as humanly possible so she doesn't have to move. There are a lot of funny moments in this episode that I completely forgot, and even though it's more tangled together through a plot line as opposed to the later episodes that are just joke after joke, this one was like pretty grounded in its sitcom nature, probably why it's so good. Like, I like seeing Carly fight to stay, I like seeing Freddie and Sam get involved to actually help this happen. And it's so funny, they actually have to just make Spencer look like a responsible adult by putting him in a tie and suit. And of course, he ruins it at every possible angle. He eventually does convince the grandfather to let Carly stay because we learn that he's kept track of her medicines, everything that makes him a responsible adult, which, by the way, I don't think later Spencer would ever be this responsible. Like, look at this.
Well, yeah, but you know, you never know.
Why did you keep that all these years?
In case you needed it.
Nah, I'm not gonna need this.
Look, as Miss Tricky.
I'm not gonna need this because I want Carly to stay here with you.
Are you serious?
But yeah, when I rewatched this episode, I thought it was the perfect emblem of iCarly. We got the web show involved, we got some funny jokes that are grounded with the characters, the dynamics are funny. Carly and Sam make sense, Sam and Freddie make sense, like everybody kind of has their working relationship. And since it's not originally based on another show, they do care about proving themselves, so they don't expect the audience to know anything, they just kind of let them organically chime into the characters' drama. And I went into this new show hoping I would see episodes like this, you know, like more complicated dynamics between Carly and her friends, Carly and Spencer, real world implications to having an artist for a brother, or this guy that's just so irresponsible. I feel like the things that made iCarly really good back then were its witty and quick dialogue that was all rooted in the characters' wants and needs of the scene. This is something I'm not gonna say that I see a lot of in the new series, trust me. And it does that awesome sitcom thing where all the plots carefully are concluded by the end of the episode. Everything everybody's going through, A, B, and C plot, are perfectly aligned. Now, if we're talking about a bad episode example, though, is Season 1, Episode 3, iDream of Dance. I know you guys have seen my videos before, so you'll know that I really hate this episode. I feel like the storyline gets all meshed up. It doesn't get resolved by the end of the episode. We break free of the normal structure just for some random jokes that don't really have anything to do with the character or the situations. There's no real moral at the end of the episode. No characters really cared about each other in a way that allowed them to grow at all. And all the jokes that were actually in there were sometimes in bad fun, like I would say too cynical. Something I noticed this new show drops a lot of, the cynical parts of it, which almost feel unnatural. But yeah, so if it's a good episode, it will lean more toward being I want to stay with Spencer, but if it's definitely on its worst axis, I'm seeing it being more like I Dream of Dance. So let's do it. Let's jump into iCarly Season 1 with the pilot.
Wasn't supposed to catch on fire, was it?
Never is.
So the new show starts with episode 1 called iStart Over, and it's no joke, guys, they really did try to start over. iCarly is completely different now, it's 2021, and Spencer is nude! Which is kind of like a great start off for the new series, having Spencer be naked, because it, 1, establishes that this series might be a little bit more inappropriate, and 2, it starts off with all of our main characters kind of in the same room, as opposed to the pilot where we saw Carly, the original series pilot, where we saw Carly enter the principal's office for the first time, and she kind of gives us the background info, kind of passive-aggressively. Or just passively, I guess. Something that bothered me about this original pilot is the same thing that bothers me about the current one, where it's like they kind of just feed the expository information just casually. Like, in the principal's office of the original show, Carly's like, I live with my brother Spencer. She essentially has this whole monologue explaining her circumstances and why the audience shouldn't have questions about her upbringing. It's cool because we get the principal's perspective and Miss Briggs' perspective on her life, which kind of adds context for the audience, as opposed to the new one, which assumes the audience knows exactly where we've left off, so we only are introduced to the main characters, and it makes it sound like the dialogue is a lot more expository too, where each character essentially gets a turn to very quickly say what they've been up to in the last, like, 5-6 years. Which is Spencer being super rich, and Carly essentially being new to the town she had grown up in. Not necessarily new, but we're seeing her here for the first time in a while. She's got a lot more baggage than she originally had. Before we knew that she went to Ridgeway, and she grew up here in Seattle, across from Freddie, and she has a best friend. In this series, we learn that she is an adult woman who spent a lot of time in Italy, a lot of time with her ex-best friend Sam, rest in peace, because of course she's not returning in this series due to unforeseen circumstances. You could look into that yourself. But she had a whole couple years with her dad in the military, and she is a lot more mature of a person. She's currently dating somebody named Bo, which we don't have to go into the deep background of what Bo is. But the point is, all around, she has a lot more baggage than she did in the first series. And instead of it being her and her 2 best friends and her brother, this time it's her, her brother, and her best friend. I consider Freddie her best friend because it's the first one she took from the last series, but Harper is actually her best friend too. And Freddie's a lot more intimate of a friend than he was in the beginning. Carly is talking about like this whole new life she wants to have with Bo, and she wants to start a web series with him. So I guess she's still in the world of the internet, but this time she's clearly caught up with the fact that influencing is a lot more important than doing a web show nowadays, which I kind of like that they lean into that. It's a lot more realistic. We get thrown into a proposal type situation where Carly is about to ask Bo to be full-time web partners, but he's about to break up with her. So a lot of drama right off the bat, and we get Freddie trying to record the whole thing, and it's embarrassing. So if you ask me, this start to the new series is a lot more impactful than even the first one. Although, they do expect us to know a lot more information going into it than ever before, which is kind of annoying. And there's something offbeat about the jokes this time around, where not all of them are necessarily funny, but they still kind of go with the timing of a joke. We get a little bit of insight onto how the series is about to unfold. And I just remember the first time this show came out. Like, I followed it for probably years before it came out, hearing little details about how Carly will have a little girl to deal with. Ended up being Freddie's daughter. That a lot of the cast is going to come back, which ended up being everybody but Noah Monk and Jeanette McCurdy, Sam, and Gibby. And as little details kept revealing themselves along the way, I just got more hyped because it just sounded like a great idea. Like, the original iCarly connection to the internet is very relevant still to this day, so they can only really get closer to that, right? But it's such a nice nostalgic feeling when you get to see this show air for the first time and you're looking at the theme song and you're really curious about all the episodes you're about to see. Like the original iCarly, I can see all these clips and I know exactly what they're about. I know the episodes that are coming around. I know everything to expect. But now it's like I'm on the journey too with iStart over. They try to loop us in with the most familiar characters in the cold open, which is really fair because I don't like to be thrown into a bunch of stuff, which they kind of do with Harper and Freddie's daughter. I wish we got like one moment with each of them in the same way we do with Carly and Sam in the pilot. This episode is kind of like a redemption episode where Carly is essentially getting over her breakup depression, and it's a lot more intricate than the first series, which I kind of like. I like that there's a lot of stuff we have to unpack. Carly is essentially kind of fighting for her humanity here. Like, it puts her in a position where she makes a lot of decisions that could really help us define who she's become now that she's here again. I wish they leaned more into the whole going back to your hometown thing as like a millennial, because that's such an interesting story that all the people watching this show are probably going through, like returning to their roots in the same way that Carly is doing that. Like, it's such good commentary on the culture we're going through. And Harper is very quirky and fun right off the bat, where like she's kind of dismissive and ignorant in the way that Sam was. Well, Sam was more ignorant and violent and didn't really care about what other people think, and Harper's more focused on what other people think and leans into her whole goals. I get a little annoyed at how preachy it could be sometimes, but I feel like the information getting in our heads is more important than the way they deliver it, so fine, I guess. I'm just thinking that when I'm looking at the party scene with Spencer and Freddie, and they're like kind of going back and forth, taking turns saying what they've been up to. And their dynamic is a lot more refreshing this series. I feel like they didn't have a lot of reasons to talk because of the age gap between Carly, Freddie, and Spencer, but this time Spencer and Freddie have a lot more meaningful of a relationship, and Freddie takes on more of a parental role with his new daughter, which Millicent being in this is it's kind of hard for your mind to wrap around pretty quickly. Like, Freddie has a daughter, he looks like he is still a kid. But, you know, that's just kind of how we look. You know, speaking as somebody born in the 90s, I don't think we're ever gonna grow up. I really don't. But Millicent's the character I've always been looking forward to, like the person that butts heads with Carly about social media and trends, because she's the age that Carly was when her show started. And she is a lot more cynical, a lot more like Megan from Drake and Josh than Carly necessarily. So it's kind of interesting. It feels like a Drake and Josh plot weaved into a new series of iCarly, which definitely adds a little bit of nostalgia because we all liked Drake and Josh growing up, but you still kind of need to work on your own when you're doing a show like this. And I wish I cared more about Freddie's approval toward Millicent, like their relationship and how deeply they care about each other, because it seems like they're more co-workers right off the bat, which I don't love. And we're missing Sam and Freddie's like back and forth comedic duo dynamic. Like, this doesn't seem like it's replacing it. Nor do Freddie and Spencer feel like they're replacing it. It more so feels like a Carly-centric plot, which there's nothing wrong with it, but if you're going to shove in everybody else's backstory, either wait and teeter off the information for us to learn later, or just find a better way to weave it into the plot. Like learning about Carly, Sam, and Freddie was a lot easier when we were seeing them in relation to the teachers and the students at Ridgeway in middle school. There was usually a more established reason to keep everybody in each other's lives, which made so much more sense for the show than it does now. Like now, when you're an adult, you really do have to find a reason to keep people around, and it has to be a lot more, monetary or family-oriented, like to make it really believable. So Millicent being in this group is a tough sell, and I still feel that to like the end of my iCarly watch. Like I've watched this show for a while now, the reboot, and I feel like that's just something that's really hard for me to get over, is just the very inception of Freddie and Millicent's relationship. So in order not to harp on it for too long, let's just move on and pretend that it's all normal. Oh my gosh, I should adopt a daughter myself to go through what Freddie's going through and see if we could speak on this on like a really deep level. No, I'm just kidding. This shouldn't really happen to people. Carly is way too depressed about the breakup to enjoy Spencer's party, but she promised him she would be there, so she shows up. Although she kind of talks the whole time, even through his speech, about wanting to leave, which is kind of disrespectful as a sister. Like, Carly, this guy literally raised you. I do like how you could see Spencer is essentially such an adult at this point. Like, he was a kind of an adult in the original show, but here it's like he's really committed to it and being mature, despite the fact he does have a few blow-ups every now and then, because, of course, he's Spencer. But in this moment, it's just fun to see him actually connect to the real world and find his place in it. Carly's about to leave, but then she sees a handsome guy and decides to stay, which is not really such an influential reason, but what can you do? Harper and Spencer have the whole B plot this time. We just have to accept that they know each other, and even though they don't really have a lot in common, they argue throughout this episode, which kind of paints Harper in a bad light, because it's like, why would you put her at odds with one of the funniest characters right off the bat, especially since their B plot isn't a lot of jokes. It's more like Spencer trying to prove himself to Harper and that he is a true artist, despite the fact that he's rich now. Like he doesn't have that original spark that an artist would have. And I like that insecurity. It definitely shows us that Spencer is committed to being an artist. But yeah, it doesn't really help Harper. Like, I wish it was a Freddie-centric episode for that matter. Like, let's just have fun with Harper. Like, don't give us super serious plot lines with her. I barely know how she operates as a person. It's funny watching Millicent get in the way of Freddie's dating. Like, he essentially is taking the role of child again, but instead of Miss Benson, it's Millicent treating him like that, which is funny. Because, of course, Freddie can't grow with all these women, like, pushing him to do very specific things. Like, he's never gonna find himself, or even another woman for that matter at this point. But hey, seeing Miss Benson right off the bat was definitely a really warm welcome. I feel like when I was watching this for the first time, it definitely suspended my disbelief, and like I calmed down about judging this show so hard. Because really, it's not that big of a deal that it's like rehashing a lot of the same original elements, since they're doing it either effortlessly or not obnoxiously. I mean, except for the exposition dialogue, but let's just move past that. Carly finds a new guy, and she kind of forgets about everything she worried about before, and as they're about to have breakfast, even Bo makes an appearance, giving her one time to shut him down. And I like that. I like him getting his comeuppance. It's a little unnatural the way everybody gathers in the living room for this, but hey, like, I just like seeing the main characters again. I like the commentary on the fact that Carly's essentially distracting herself with new guys and trying to find her place in the world, but usually having it be stuck around men and like what she wants to do with her life, like a more millennial standpoint than the original pilot, which is like her trying to kind of find her place in Ridgeway. In this, she's seeking out independence and like kind of like a new angle to do with her work and her life, which makes us really empathize with her a lot more. But the original is just like her falling into this whole idea of starting a web show, like entertaining people. It's a lot more wholesome of a journey, and this one just kind of is about corporate America and what it's like to be an adult. But hey, that's just the dark, depressing world of being an adult. I can attest. It becomes about the deeper meaning of her independence and how she really misses Sam, which is a great way to bring up where she's been this whole time. I'm sure, like, you guys were wondering, I was wondering this whole first episode, just when are they going to mention Sam, and is it going to be respectful? And it is. It feels like they're talking about her as if she really is this friend in real life that needs help and like they miss her, and it's very genuine coming from such an authentic place. And it kind of inspires Carly to do the web show again on her own this time. Which it's kind of weird because they half commit to reviving the web show or bringing Carly into her own social media influencer era. Which it's just, I wish it wasn't necessarily the web show iCarly. I wish it was them more leaning into the fact that she is a solo artist now. But hey, it works for it working. And of course, we get the three main characters back up in the attic one more time to kind of reinvent the already established world we know and love. They did a good job at recreating the Nickelodeon magic of having that first pilot and laugh track. And even though they are starting out as an already successful show, it still gives us like some garage vibes that these characters have a long way to go and they actually have aspirations and things they want to do in their life. While Spencer's and Freddie's aren't super clear, Carly's is really interesting at least. It doesn't bring the community together as easily as the original show's pilot, because of course it's more so of like a group project and they have to work together in order to get this one specific goal, but here it's just Carly. Spencer gets his approval from Harper, which is kind of like a separate plot, but the internet doesn't really find itself weaving its way into this one outside of Carly. Of course, we can't not compare it to the original iCarly pilot. The cool thing about the original pilot is every character kind of had its place. Like, for example, Sam was beating up a kid when Carly started talking to her for the first time. Freddie was staring out the peephole to see when she would come home. Like, all the character relationships seemed pretty straightforward based on, like, the scenarios they were given. In the new pilot, Carly is about to start a new web show. In this first pilot, she was just assigned to record people for the school talent show. Carly and Sam have like an instant Drake and Josh dynamic, which makes a lot of sense having that be the most recent super big hit show they had. Like, Carly is pretty heavily the straight person in this main group. Spencer is definitely the lovable loser right off the bat, showing us how irresponsible he is to literally have turned a basic camcorder into a squirrel, which, how in the world would that have happened anyway? So Freddie ends up tagging along to Carly, recording the new talent show people. Him and Sam have problems with each other right away, which is so funny. I wish Harper and Spencer had something like this if they were really going to go for the comedic duo, which it felt like they were trying to go for, but it didn't actually work out. The original one has this whole like sensation element where not only is there like wacky people around them, but their entire video of the auditions blows up. Freddie records Sam and Carly talking and ends up embarrassing them in front of the whole world. But you know, everybody finds them super funny, so it blows up in like a good way. Carly and Sam try not to freak out from talking about Miss Briggs behind her back and having it blow up on the internet. And low-key back then, like, I don't know if any adults were looking at the internet. Like, she's definitely not seen this. A lot of the jokes on this require Sam and Carly's reaction to the weird people around them, which is funny because the entire show ends up being more about Freddie, Sam, and Carly being funny. So it's weird that this pilot is trying to lean on other people just in case Sam and Carly aren't that funny. Like, it feels kind of like a excuse of some sort. The conflict and stakes are really high in this, where like essentially Miss Briggs can find out they were talking about her and get even more trouble, but essentially she's this villain that doesn't want them to have any of these kids do the talent show because their talents are so weird. Like, why does it have to be a commentary about what's weird and what's not weird? It definitely reminds me of the old days when you used to be able to get in trouble for anything you put online. Like, oh, if I had a nickel for every time my parents called me after I uploaded a YouTube video to express their concerns, I feel like Carly, Sam, and Freddie would understand what I was going through too. It ends up being about this like kind of like kid revolution situation where it's more about adults versus kids, and Carly is going to lead the way in let's do a web show that actually highlights these kids that adults don't want to highlight, which is super relevant to even today. I feel like millennials and Gen Z have this like big fight against older generations where they don't necessarily see us as normal people, or they look it down on us because we're weird, and it's definitely being reflected in this iCarly episode. And I feel like that's why it means a lot to us that this show even came back. Like there's something cathartic about watching these kids making like their own videos at our age with like controversial opinions, censorships, being told what to do. And then here we're coming back to a time where things are exactly like that, and Carly's trying to find her independence, and there's not really necessarily an antagonist. So I feel like the original pilot did a better job at establishing these stakes, showing all the characters for the first time in a natural way that also felt like we were learning about the characters and progressing the story, as opposed to the new one, which is more so feeding us information without having fun doing it. Like, you could tell it's a lot more sterile, it's a lot more composed, kind of like an adult sitcom, and they didn't want to lean into the cheesiness of it all. But I do feel like sometimes they avoided the cheesiness, but just the parts that make a good story. You know, like Sam beating somebody up, like Freddie staring at her through his door. Like, those are things that are comical because they're so ridiculous. So yeah, I feel like they cut out some of the wacky angst that could have done really well in the new iCarly. But you know what? Honestly, the new iCarly has a lot of really good moments coming up. I would say this pilot is probably the low point of this whole show, which is a good thing. It's a good sign to show that this is only the beginning of something actually really genuine that comes back and fills your heart one more time. So yeah, while the first series of iCarly did the pilot a little bit better, I still kind of had fun with the iCarly reboot version. The original pilot ends with them having a party to celebrate this new web show that they're all going to be committed to, and the new series ends up with them bringing back baby Spencer, which is one of the old classic bits. So it's definitely honoring the first pilot, and the first pilot isn't necessarily trying to honor like something that's going to happen later, so it's never going to be like new original IP, but it does the job for what is worth coming up. And there's something about seeing Spencer and Carly and Freddie get back into it in the new series that makes this whole first pilot feel a lot more genuine. And I feel really excited to have iCarly be a part of my culture and how I reflect on the internet, even today. But let's keep going.
I'm really glad we're doing the show again. When we started, we were just kids having fun, but now we can make a real impact. You know, push culture forward.
Can you help me take this off?
So this second episode is a huge leap forward. I hate iCarly, and honestly, I fell for it pretty quickly. Like, all of my hesitancy on the quality of this show kind of went out the window when I saw even just the cold open. I Hate iCarly is about Carly dealing with one of her followers relentlessly trying to bully her as an influencer. And whew, guys, if you were an influencer, which I kind of am, you would know how this feels. I too have been in young Carly's position where people all online are saying rude stuff about me, and you know what? It does hurt. It sounds like I'm joking, honestly, but it does hurt. It's a hard time to live in, and it's interesting to see them dive into this topic, having be so normal. Like in the original show, they would explain what was going on, like, oh, a hater is when you do this and when this, but like now all this stuff is so ingrained in our culture, even Freddie knows about it off the bat, so everybody can explain it. It doesn't really matter who it is. So apparently this guy just keeps relentlessly following her on every form of social media. It starts with a bit where she's dressed as a bunny because apparently she was doing a makeup tutorial, and it's one of those things where like they tell, don't show. Like, I would have loved to see whatever they were doing in that makeup tutorial. Like, that's a funny concept. Why not sell me on it? Carly's insecurity here really reminds me of the original neurotic Carly. Like, I love that is her whole thing. But as Freddie's helping her take off the bunny outfit, it really makes me wonder, like, why is he needed? Like, we don't usually do videos like this with a huge technical crew like we used to. Like, it's really hard to find a place for him and have it be logical why he needs to be there. Carly says she's gonna fight this new hater with love and light, which is so funny. It almost sounds like religious. Like, Carly, what do you mean love and light? That's definitely like my mentality though too. Like, I feel like I find myself being very pacifist. Like, I don't condone fighting. I don't think there's usually a good reason to get physical, but Freddie saying he just reports and blocks him is so Freddie. Like, of course that's him. Carly immediately decides to invite this hater of iCarly to meet up and find out exactly why he doesn't like iCarly. I know this sounds crazy, but I actually had a very similar situation when I was going to college in Chicago in 2016, 17, 18. I did a show called Jensen Goes to College, and I talked about it in one of my other videos, but it was like one of those shows that like I just said whatever I wanted, and it was like borderline offensive because it was immature me making stuff up that I thought was funny that I saw on TV myself. And I remember one person in particular commented on all the videos, and he essentially said, "Get rid of yourself," in not so kind of a tone. Obviously, there's a lot more to that story, but we'll get into it as Carly gets into it, shall we? So we get a really funny bit with Spencer and Freddie actually trying to look like they're wearing disguises, so whoever this iCarly hater comes in as will not recognize him. If Freddie was really committed to this bit, I feel like Millicent would be a little bit more hidden. I don't know why they would just shamelessly be out in the open like this. And we see Skybox, which is where Harper works. It definitely sounds like a Schneider Universe type place, but I feel like they're not making the title changes super dramatic from what they used to do. Like, Skybox and Starbucks are just so similar. Then again, the iPhone and the Paraphone are similar. I don't know. The idea that Spencer is the one who wants to defend Carly if something goes haywire, like, what are you gonna do, Spencer? He admits he has a taser, though, which is definitely funny. And then they run into Nora Dershowitz, which is the star of some of the worst episodes of iCarly for me. She was in iPsycho 2, and her whole thing is she's just a crazy person that wants Carly in her basement. Like, they really don't sugarcoat it in any way. She's not just lonely, she's not just anything, she's just crazy. They really don't humanify her. And Spencer apps himself with the taser right off the bat, which is definitely funny. The cool thing about Nora is that she's the scapegoat because, of course, Carly's gonna think that it's her harassing her channel. Same thing with Neville. Way back in season 1 when he was just a big fan and then ended up turning his back to iCarly. Like, of course that would happen again. While Carly's waiting for this stranger, she runs into a guy and starts hitting it off with him, and he's really nice, and I feel like as the audience, we know pretty quickly, of course, this is gonna be the guy. We don't have a lot of other characters to work with right now. Freddie is so focused on his new mustache, which just makes me think of him not only being like the comedic relief character, but even worse. Like, it reminds me of Alan Harper from 2.5 Men. Like, he's just a guy down on his luck, been through a couple divorces himself, and then just finds, like, his personality and the mundane things in his life and starts randomly clinging to things that he thinks are a part of him. Like, Freddie has a lot of bits where he's just like super into one thing and it kind of makes him forget about his real life circumstances, but for the most part, like, this boy's just suffering. Freddie exactly reminds me of all the friends my age that like went to college, got a degree, and couldn't find a job in that degree, and is just like trying to find joy out of the smaller things. As Carly tries to track down this guy, she has like a whole clipboard of a lot of people she knows that she suspects it could be. Like, we see a picture of Miss Briggs. Of course, Neville's on that list. Like, I wish we got to see a little bit closer at this clipboard. It's kind of cool. Definitely stalkerish that she put the new guy she was interested in on that board. Like, sure, we all know that this is definitely the guy who's trashing her, but she doesn't think it's weird to have a picture of this guy she just started talking to on there. Oh my gosh, and Spencer's kind of blind in this, so he keeps relying on his other senses, which is so funny. Like, he is such a klutz around here. Freddie comes in and actually kind of pities Spencer, like wants to help him a little bit. And this is when he starts giving me that Leonard and Sheldon vibes, where it's like they're kind of, where Spencer and Freddie kind of take the comedic duo role in this in the way that Sam and Freddie couldn't do because they don't have Sam. Like, I feel like Freddie's character works best when he's reacting to somebody or having a response to somebody, because when he's just like leading on his own, it almost feels like he's so ignorant that the directions he go to are so misguided, like running after a mustache. That can't be normal. So Carly ends up going on a date with this guy, and they really keep hitting it off. Like, it's nice to see Carly in such a healthy relationship so far. I mean, I know it's been one date, but like the back and forth is really normal. But Nora's role in this is so weird. Like, she keeps interrupting the date, which doesn't necessarily have to do with the rest of the plot. It doesn't really matter how that happens. It feels like a comedic skit that wasn't welcome and doesn't progress anything. Like, this is the only reason I'm pointing this out is because this is a good example of something the show doesn't do super well, is integrate the comedic moments with the plot that's progressing. Seeing Millicent talk to Harper about what a 401k is in the next scene definitely is funny. Like, it shows me that she is one of the smartest people and she is one of the youngest people, which might actually be kind of our reality, guys. Carly is super excited because her date with the guy went well, so it's like, why did Nora need to be a part of that? But moving on. And even with the date going well, iCarly 57 just magically had an opinion about Carly that was positive. Yay! So Carly thinks that she's just getting these positive reviews because of the fact that she's a good person, but really it's the fact that she's dating this guy. So this guy shows up at Carly's house to apologize. And whoa, wait! I forgot to talk about the Spencer and Freddie bit. So yeah, Spencer and Freddie. Spencer can't see, so Freddie's helping him do a bunch of stuff, like work out or do all these aerobic classes. It's just such a weird side plot. You could tell they were just trying to be as quirky as the original iCarly show. And then we find out that Spencer's been lying, and then Freddie finds out Spencer's been lying, and it's almost like the entire plot started, stopped, and then resolved itself within that one scene. Like, I wish I could see longer of Spencer not being able to do anything on his own. Another scene where we find out he's lying, but instead they like crammed it into one quick bit. And it's like, this is a Netflix or Paramount Plus show. Like, you don't have to worry about commercials. You can kind of control how long the episodes are. I don't know why they didn't just milk this a little bit longer. Like, we don't need to just have episodes played out before us. Like, let's watch these characters do funny stuff. Like, stop making the plots progress so quickly. Millicent is so cute in this episode because you finally get to see her and Carly bump heads on a real serious issue, like what's going on with her channel. Like, of course, Millicent has a little bit more insight than Carly does, and using it in a scenario against her is exactly why I like to see her on the show. Like, give me a reason for Millicent to be petty and rude toward them, the same way the teachers used to be, or the adults. Like, that's kind of how iCarly used to be, and now it's like flipped around where it's like the adults are against the kids a little bit. Carly ends up finding out that this guy is iHate iCarly 57 or whatever, and he is essentially like, dang, you caught me. Which is like, why couldn't you tell her before? Like, you had so many opportunities, especially on that dinner date. Like, that couldn't have come up. I guess that's a reason for Nora to have done that thing. Whatever, I don't know. It's kind of vulnerable in this sense because before Carly had Sam to lean on in these situations where Sam could either warn her or help her figure it out, but it seems like Harper's a little too adjacent to the plot to be involved, and Carly's kind of on her own, which it's kind of scary to gauge like if somebody's a good or bad person. And it's kind of like the sad reality of when you're a young adult and you actually don't have people to lean on as much and you kind of have to trust your own judgment. Like, I guess that is like a real compliment to the iCarly show. Like, it does kind of show that fear. I would be terrified of him though, because seeing your name on a hateful profile but then you show up at my house, like, that's a red flag. I don't get why Carly is so accepting toward this. He ends up saying that the only reason he really doesn't like her is because he was one of the people that sent in a talent to iCarly that never got featured. And it's kind of sad to think about. Carly kind of says that it's Sam's fault because she never really watched the submissions, which is just like a funny one-off joke. But then you actually feel bad for him. You're like, oh wow, like, Carly was in a position of power of telling people if they were special or not, and he was just one of the lonely kids that had reached out to her. Like, he could have even run to Ridgeway for all we know. So there's a lot more like emotional stakes here, a lot more of a moral dilemma, unlike these new episodes have been yet. The original first season of iCarly had several moral issue episodes, like when Sam put in the grades and Carly had to come clean about it because the guilt was eating her alive. Like, that was a good moral episode, and it's nice to see this take that direction. Now, this is a part I like. Carly actually has second thoughts about this whole situation after telling him to get up and leave. She shares with Harper that maybe she was in the wrong and that she should have actually listened to him. Like, that was a real reason to not like somebody at the time, which that's actually a really honest and open acceptance for Carly to have. Like, I feel like that's very sweet to empathize with somebody that much that you could like see past how you feel about them. But hey, let's take a break from all this actual deep storytelling to actually look at Spencer for a second. So he ends up asking a girl out for that night and then accidentally sprays his eyes, trying to ask Freddie to help him see once again for this whole date. Of course, it's the boy who cried wolf, and I know I said this whole plot ended in the last segment, but yeah, it should have. This is like unnecessary. It's not even a funny gag anymore. Now it's just like going on too long, which honestly is kind of funny though. Yeah, the plot though with Freddie and Spencer just feels a little generic. It feels like a friend miscommunication, like a normal sitcoms episode just replaced with iCarly characters. Like, it doesn't have to do with the show, it doesn't have to do with being on the internet. Like, why are we going this into it? So in order to make it up to Justin, Carly tries to be a good person by inviting him on iCarly, which I don't know how that works now. Like, before it was like they would be a guest star on the iCarly show, they would do something or be involved in some kind of game, but in this scenario, it's Carly just being an influencer, so she kind of, I assume, would do like vlog updates, like small funny bits, like maybe costume characters. So why is it just a video of this man on the screen? Like, you might as well make your own video, dude. We can't pretend we're living in the 2000s for some bits of this technology experience. Like, this man could have very well got up, made a video himself, and actually started a career on whatever he wanted with iCarly, instead of holding a grudge for such a long time and only waiting until now to use Carly's phone. Like, I don't know, that's just such a weird look for me. It's glaringly a copy of the episode I Like Jake, where Carly likes this guy named Jake, who's Austin Butler. Really funny, because of course he was dating Zoe from Zoe 101, and now he's hopping shows. One of my favorite parts from this episode is when Carly is telling Sam she likes this guy named Jake, and Sam literally throws an apple at him to get her attention. Also, what kind of name is Jake Crandall? Like, the Crandallberry? I don't know. Tom Crandler and the Little Scandler? I don't know, that would be a weird drama, I guess. Of course, we can't not talk about the fact that Austin Butler has been the love interest on literally so many shows. Not only was he on, like, Hannah Montana one time, in addition to the Zoe 101 obvious appearance, but he also was in Ned's Declassified. Like, this guy was all over. He's just, like, the extra of the 2000s. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if in my peripheral vision, when I was looking around a normal town, that I just saw this guy as one of the background characters, you know? And it's so funny because he virtually plays like the same character. Like, in the episode, Carly and this guy are going on a date. So he comes to the apartment, sees her house, meets Spencer even, and he's just like the perfect guy. Of course, we get like some funny moments with Freddie being jealous, because at the time his level of liking Carly was like 12,000. Like, he was just so aggressively trying to pursue her that he was like trying to intimidate Austin Butler. Like, isn't that so funny, just seeing Freddie try to fight for territory over Elvis Presley? Like, that's kind of crazy, right? Him and Carly hit it off so well, and she ends up inviting him to sing on her show. See how this is starting to sound familiar? Yeah, so that's the same thing that's happening in the current episode of iCarly. She's inviting this guy onto iCarly, just essentially to kind of keep the relationship normal. And that's scary to me. Like, that's some scary behavior. I mean, if you're looking at it in a dramatic way, for some people, I'm sure this is just work. Like, it's professional, or it's just not even happening. But it is a very real thing to, like, have people create content together, like, as either a couple, or, like, that's something that's normal nowadays. So back then, like, pretty normal for, like, this guy to be on iCarly from then on. Like, that would have been such a weird reality. But back then, it wasn't just Carly being an influencer for being Carly on her own. Like, she was a part of Sam. Like, it was her and her doing our iCarly. And the reaction to what happens is the same. Like, basically, the guy on the new iCarly has a really cringy monologue he's, like, giving to the world. And Carly just did not think to ask, like, either in rehearsal or before, like, what he planned on doing. Like, she couldn't get a version of this poem before she put him on the internet live. Like, it's clearly a live show she puts on. I don't know why she's, like, kind of showing... why she's, like, so committed to show other people on her channel type stuff. Like, I don't know, that's just such a weird gimmick. But yeah, the same thing happens with Jake. Like, Jake is a bad singer, and she's embarrassed to have it on her own show. I guess it was live back then, and it's live now because we don't accept the fact that we could edit things like this. I do think in the Jake episode when Freddie actually auto-tunes it and somehow makes him a better singer, that would have been like the proper solution in this scenario. Like imagine like Freddie just had some kind of technology, or like I guess it would be like a filter or something that would allow the audience to find what this man is monologuing interesting. Like, I don't know, what, would you add music to it? Would you make it a dance? Like, I don't know, that would be a little too modern for me, actually. I want to dial it back a little bit. But yeah, you see the connection with these two episodes? Like, iLike Jake is definitely like a spiritual kind of, prerequisite to this episode. Like, it almost makes me wonder which is a better representation of what I feel like iCarly is. Like, I consider this a really quality episode of iCarly. iLike Jake, Season 1, Episode 4. But you know what? I can't say iHate iCarly is worse. Honestly, I feel like if I had to put these two episodes against each other, I almost prefer the new episode's take on it, because, I don't know, just the more direct version of a hater being something that would, like, affect Carly in such a negative way feels a lot more realistic, authentic, like it's going on right now at this place in time. Meanwhile, back then it was more about embarrassment and like how you see yourself on the internet, and like it was kind of more cynical than it was now. I don't know, I feel like we had a pretty interesting plot line and higher stakes in the new series, like if we had to put these episodes back to back. So I don't know, new iCarly is pretty good. But I will reiterate the point. I feel like this guy could have just started his channel on his own. He could have put himself in front of some kind of internet fad. Like, we can't just pretend TikTok doesn't exist. And that's all I have to say on that. I don't know. I do feel like Freddie had some good moments, like approaching Nora Derchlitz at Harper and Carly's apartment. Like, that was an interesting reunion callback for no reason. But then again, it's not like a crime show. It's not like a superhero's whole show, but it is interesting watching these characters get together. It makes me miss Sam a little bit more, though. I am surprised, though, that I like this more. That's gotta say something.
Interesting.
Okay, so I know I was kind of fawning over that last episode, but this next one is actually my favorite thus far. It's called iFauxpologize. And it's essentially catching us up in one episode on all the technology they're gonna want you to know about throughout this show. Like, we're introduced to tweeting, we're talking about, like, social media online issues, like the way people spread words about things. Like, this whole episode is, like, about being canceled. I don't know, they do a good job at really encapsulating actual social media culture that's going on right here, right now. And even though it's a little dark, it's kind of real, and that's something you gotta respect about it. I don't know, but you know what? The cold open is the best part, because Spencer, he is gold here. Like, listen to all these things he says.
What is a feeling? How does one define a rainbow? If a bamboo breaks...
Oh, sorry, Spencer, hold on. I love this squirrel getting a manicure meme. It says so much without saying anything.
I'm saying something.
I don't know why, he's just such a good character. Watching each character have an opinion about what Spencer's doing with his art is really interesting, especially as an adult. Like, they seem to be a lot more hard-headed as opposed to the teen characters they would have been on the original show. Like, Spencer's a lot more in their social zeitgeist because they're older now. You know, like, before he had no friends his age, and they would be very isolated separately based on age, but now they're all kind of like in the same friend group even. It reminds me a lot of like Friends, or What I Like About You is a lot like that. That show with Amanda Bynes, like she's a girl living in New York City, something I feel like would be a spiritual successor to The Amanda Show. It's Amanda Bynes growing up in New York with her older sister on their own, and it definitely has a lot of iCarly vibes because of like the brother and sister thing. Like, you can't forget about that. But yeah, in that show, it's just a more grounded version of what a Dan Schneider show would be, like a Schneider universe, I guess. And that's what this is feeling more like an adult spiritual successor, but also a sequel at the same time. I don't know, I think it's doing all the right things, and it's appropriate. It's just a little awkward every now and then. Like, the way they're sitting on the couch and, like, just throwing one-liners at each other, like, it's like they already expected us to know these characters so well, while the first season of iCarly kind of introduced us to every character's character trait one by one. Like, we would learn a little bit about Freddie, we would learn a little bit about Sam through, like, the situations they get in and what they do about it. And here, they're just, like, getting into, like, third or fourth season energy, where they're just kind of already knowing each other. They don't have to question basic traits one another had, but, like, I don't know, they kind of just don't seem to care enough to get us to really know what they're thinking about. Sure, you could blame it on just being a sitcom and, like, it's sitcom writing, but, like, there is a way to do it pretty easily. Like, I kind of want to know a little bit more about what's going on in their personal lives, as opposed to just having them be characters doing a teen show bit. But Spencer's comedy saves it every time. So Carly kind of blows up for a minute on the internet because of an old picture of herself. Freddie and Harper kind of pressure her to take advantage of the moment and actually drive traffic to her show, and it starts to feel a little inauthentic to Carly, which is kind of cool that we're actually battling with that kind of authenticity. Like, technically, Carly, you are in the business of yourself, I guess. You're like, your personality is your brand, is your source of money. Like, it can help give these people jobs. Like, it's, I don't know, it's some weird territory. I like that we see she is the ethical one and the one that's, like, morally confused about everything. Like, that's really good for a main character. It gets a little meta because they reference the fact that, like, a meme goes viral, and that's kind of your chance at success. And we're also kind of talking about the fact that Miranda has a meme viral. That is her Megan from Drake and Josh smiling with the soda can looking at the computer screen. And then she recreates that meme in this scene. And guys, I don't know, this part's dragging for me a little bit. I don't like it when they get this meta. Like, it's gonna be cool looking back in a couple years being like, oh yeah, because this was going on and this actually happened, sure, but, like, it feels a little too taking me out of reality from this show type vibes, you know? Especially since Freddie literally mentions COVID and says, no, nothing like that would ever happen. It's like, okay, guys, that's a little too tongue-in-cheek for what we're fitting you into. I feel like this show should just be a drama. Like, that would make everything so much better if they committed to that. But yeah, this commentary on meme culture and making a career out of your face and marketing yourself and just making this your job, that's a really cool angle to have a TV show. Millicent references the sad reality that there could be a time where maybe eating an orange is actually going to be offensive, so Carly could get canceled in a couple years. Like, this is so crazy that this is, like, what you would have to worry about in survival mode. Ooh, this is actually really cool, though. So, apparently, the conflict with Spencer is really interesting. So, Spencer is going to have an art gallery, and one of Carly's memes that trended were making fun of Spencer's art. So now there's this trending art meme that's actually driving a lot of traffic to Spencer and Carly. And Carly thinks this could be a good thing. She's being told by Freddie and Harper that this is probably a good thing. But Spencer's all like, oh, I'm an artist. I don't want to be drawn attention to in that way, which is definitely a deep character moment for Spencer. Like, it's so real to see him actually be committed to being an artist. Like, a mature artist is scary looking, and he's definitely good at it. I like the dramatic character issues they're having, like Carly and Spencer not getting along, like Carly not feeling like she should actually have to apologize, Spencer being insecure that his meme is the one driving everything and he's not even comfortable with it. That sucks. But how cool is it that we actually get to see, like, a real argument between these guys? Like, I Date a Bad Boy was a little different with this. Yeah, that was one of the episodes where they really disagreed. I'm not sure if you guys remember that one, but I Date a Bad Boy was from season 2, and it's when Carly started dating the guy Griffin, and yeah, her and Spencer got into this huge disagreement that he didn't want Carly dating Griffin, and Carly just ended up dating him anyway, and it came between them. Seeing them argue for the first time was just like, maybe not the first time, but like, it was just jarring. Seeing them disagree, like fighting each other as brother and sister, like it's so real, like when you actually take it in isolation. But yeah, like even currently, just seeing him suffer because of this whole meme situation and Carly just trying to profit off of it, it has like a really interesting conflict of interest where you definitely feel bad for Spencer, but you also feel like you know why he doesn't get it. You know, like he's a lot older, and that's where this age gap thing actually means something. Oh, Spencer's acting is so good in this one though. Like, I definitely believe that he is Spencer. The way he talks to this young woman character that's like kind of Carly's age, and she's clearly an influencer, like he just doesn't know how to talk to them, and that is so Spencer. Millicent is so cute in this episode. Like, her whole bit is that she wants to start a company that prevents people from getting canceled. So like she helps like do like a social media sweep, but really she's just got her theme song figured out. And she's like pitching herself to everybody to try to prevent exactly Carly's situation from happening, which then it's just so funny that this girl is so close to Carly and then yet also there to antagonize her. Like, it's weird because sometimes like they're against each other directly with like social media issues, but they don't really get put against one another. Ugh, I don't know. I hope they expand on this. I can't wait to watch more episodes of it. But you know, like in this moment, it feels really interesting because they both have that like younger sister experience, and seeing them go at each other about this specific situation like really makes it real. And I actually feel a lot better when I see Carly try to go out of her way to try to get the media to focus on Spencer's art. Like, her next plan is to create a meme that actually respects his art, so that way something actually good comes of it and she doesn't have to feel bad for making Spencer feel bad. So it's funny because Carly goes in with the intention that she's actually going to make it up to Spencer. She feels bad that they couldn't have a great apology earlier. So right when she walks into this art exhibit trying to promote it, she sees her own face over all of the art. So Spencer started this entire exhibit around Carly and mocking her. Oh my gosh. Which is so millennial of him. Like, I love that he's like standing up for the fact that art is a freedom of speech, and trashing the internet is perfectly appropriate. It's called the Museum of Influence, which I think I would see that to this day. That would be a cool find. Carly finds a random influencer at the place and tries to interview her about it, and she is like the stereotypical like social media girl. She's spacey and out of touch with everything that's going on. And Carly kind of gets a glimpse into Spencer's perspective, where it's like, wow, we are being a little pretentious and putting the internet above art in a lot of senses, which is kind of a deeper meaning. So yeah, Carly's trying to defend Spencer. Meanwhile, there's literal monitors of Carly with fire all around her. Oh my gosh. Yeah, seeing Spencer double down on this is actually kind of sad, because it's like, you're treating your sister with cruelty. Freddie gives Millicent a gift for her new business, and she ends up trashing him online pretty quickly, which it becomes a super funny commentary on online etiquette, with poor Freddie being bullied by his own daughter. After seeing this all on the internet and Harper makes a full business out of the meme culture of Carly, Harper tells them that there's a giant protest coming over to take down Spencer because he seems like the villain in this scenario. So Carly's influence basically takes over for her and attacks Spencer, which sucks. And these jokes are really funny. Like, even the guy that's walking by Spencer and says "screw you" in a quiet voice. Like, we do really get in touch with the current climate of social media, which kind of backtracks on itself sometimes, because the original iCarly was ahead of its time, and this one is almost right on its time. So you'll even see things that are a little obsolete for it all. Carly ends up realizing everything that she's been responsible for in this whole scenario by standing up for Spencer in front of this giant crowd, and it ends up meaning a lot to him, and probably a really sweet moment. I feel like even compared to the original iCarly series, this is a very heroic thing for Carly to do. You know, like before she was just avoiding trouble, trying to get out of situations, and now here she's fighting for her brother, which is very sweet. So yeah, just like the episode iHeart Art, we have a Spencer-centric episode talking about art and what it's defined as art, which is really interesting considering the culture has completely shifted since then. We know Spencer is still involved in art because they mentioned it in the pilot and obviously this episode, so like that keeping to a character's original premise isn't distracting to the plot. If anything, it's further expanded. And there's a lot of morals in this episode that remind me of iHeart Art. Not sure if you remember, but in iHeart Art, Spencer meets his hero, a true artist, and he ends up not liking his sculptures. So Spencer gets really depressed and almost gives up on everything. Carly, Sam, and Freddie do their best to try to get him out of this funk, but it really doesn't go well because Spencer loses his place on Earth completely. Like, look at this guy, he's so sad.
It's been 4 hours. I think you need to get off the kitchen table.
Why? Is Santa Claus here to tell me I'm ugly and have no friends?
Carly and Sam end up showcasing all of his art pieces on iCarly Live, which reminds me a lot of iFauxpologize, you know? It's like Spencer's whole exhibit of art, and the art is so different compared back then to what is done in the show now. With the world working against Spencer, it also is again up to Carly to help encourage her brother to keep expressing himself, which is a very sweet plot. The artist that made Spencer feel bad about himself ends up admitting that he only told Spencer he didn't like his art because he was jealous of him and he thought that he could surpass him one day, which is really sweet. Spencer literally went all the way back to medical school, which is ridiculous because I thought he was going to be a lawyer. And through this artist's encouragement, gets the confidence to jump back into his art, which is cool because it's actually focusing on a moral lesson. It's not as cynical. The jokes feel like they're all grounded in the characters. It's definitely more like I Want to Stay with Spencer than it is I Dream of Dance. And I love it when these shows end up being just a genuine good sitcom episode. Like, it's a really good one. While it's hard for me to choose between iFauxpologize and iHeart art, I would genuinely say I like the Fauxpologize episode better. I felt like they almost went a little bit further into the expansion of social media, using the webcast, keeping everything intact. Like, it did a really good job. So yeah, now I'm starting to warm up a lot to the new iCarly revival. While there was a little bit of off-putting jokes and some things felt shoehorned in, like not being able to dodge this meta stuff or Freddie not really getting a fair end of the bargain, the plot of this episode really did shine. Although the very ending bit is just all the main characters singing Millicent's made-up song, which I normally wouldn't love because I'm like, what a waste of an ending, but that's funny to end the entire episode on a joke like that, especially since Millicent's song was so funny. And I like that this character is being really warmed up now. Like, I'm liking Millicent a lot.
Alrighty, I got all our snacks. Hot wings, hot Cheetos, hot pretzels, and the latest addition, hot beers.
So season 1 episode 4 is called I Got Your Back, and I was excited for this one because it's the first friend breakup type episode. You know, like Sam and Carly had a lot of moments where they would disagree or they would get into arguments in the original series, and those were always rich with comedy, rich with morals and friendships. Like, I really like those episodes, and this one definitely delves into it. It's a little off pace because the structure starts with the B plot being the first thing that happens in the episode, which isn't super normal. Usually you start with the A plot, like whatever going on with Carly. But this actually starts us off with Freddie and Spencer, which are great together. Like, they're definitely a Leonard and Sheldon when they work really well. Spencer saying that he got them both hot beers is probably one of my favorite adult jokes in this entire show, but still makes me question if it's even relevant that they're adults now. Like, does it need to be a show like that? The funniest joke is with Freddie not being open to getting back into the dating world. He literally shuts down this girl at the door, and it's kind of funny the way he does it. Like, this is the funny Freddie that I've gotten from the original show that I haven't really seen so much. Like, he's goofy and misled, not necessarily like the Charlie Brown of misfortune. Spencer calling him a short king is like literal comedy gold. I feel like this should have been the pilot just because it's throwing us into more adult situations before anything else. And it's giving me a little bit more Friends vibes because if it's dealing with Freddie's relationships and Carly's already kind of dealing with her own thing, it reminds me of like having the main romantic leads like going away from each other just to come back to each other, especially with Freddie's exploration of other women. The way he interacts with Millicent actually makes it seem normal that it's his daughter. And Freddie leaves her with the girls, which is kind of a negative character trait. Like, you should care about Millicent a little bit more. I get he's going through a lot, but like, that doesn't mean be a neglectful parent. So yeah, Carly and Harper's relationship is really interesting because they have their own backstory that is new to this show, meaning we don't have to rely on too much old iCarly lore for it. She also plays a unique position, like she's essentially Carly's public relations, like how she's viewed in the world, so like she has to help her stay on track, adding a really interesting dynamic between the two and a lot of pressure with their working relationship. Essentially, her ex has a new boyfriend, you know, Bo, remember him? Yeah, weirdo. So Harper is using this whole thing to help Carly almost counteract it and get better in the public eye. She has her go on a date with somebody that she wants her to be eye candy with, and it's this really weird guy that they have no chemistry with. Millicent gets in the way by poking fun at the strain in Carly when she's like having trouble listening to Harper, and the two pretty much come on opposing sides. Carly and Harper kind of hide their distaste for each other throughout the episode, and the less they talk about their problems, the more it builds up, leading to a final fight with them in the apartment. Of course, Millicent is having a field day with this because it's everything she set up. And sensitivities are being brought up about that very meeting, having them actually against each other. And since they're not really like Carly and Sam, the way they argue is completely different. It just feels a little weird because Sam needed to be on iCarly, so Carly had more of a reason to hold on to her. And in this scenario, Carly's her own independent person, and Harper isn't necessarily even needed to continue the show. So I'm not really worried about losing her too much because I haven't really found how much she means to Carly yet. Although talking about how they met does help a little bit, I have to admit. The B-plot in this episode is probably my favorite plotline in the entire show. You know how I was talking about how it opened with it? Yeah, that was a smart idea on their chance. So it's about Freddie getting out there, like we talked about before, and trying to get his confidence back, but it's not super helpful because he's very insecure. Spencer goes out of his way to really help Freddie by finding a woman for him. Seeing Spencer care so much about Freddie and how he's feeling is very wholesome and makes a really good episode out of this. And it's so funny because he ends up hiring a prostitute, which is actually a relevant reason to have the adult aspect in this. And they don't really know that she's a prostitute right away. It's just one conversation with Harper that kind of reveals that she costs $500 an hour. And then it ends up Spencer paying like constantly for hours on hours just to get Freddie in this relationship. They do a good job at paralleling this with Carly's experience by having them both on the dates at the same time, which also runs back to my friend's theory of the romantic leads dodging each other so much. But yeah, Freddie gets super happy and lustful about this new girl, they call her Ramona, and Spencer is essentially having trouble affording for her to continue to be his girlfriend. Oh, it's funny because Spencer thinks she's an actress and he's paying her to be an actress, but I don't know if Spencer realized that she is not an actress. Or I guess she is in a way. I think a prostitute can somewhat be an actress. Spencer now can't get Freddie to give up on Ramona, so his wallet is in trouble. Some of the funniest comedic relief I could ever imagine. And that's where it's like definitely reminding me of The Big Bang Theory. Like, this is an adult situation that is just such a funny circumstance to be stuck in. And that plotline kind of resolves itself, with Freddie saying that they never really had spark anyway, so all of Spencer's money was essentially wasted. But back to the Carly and Harper fight, it was just like one little fight, and then suddenly Carly's showing up at the red carpet all by herself, with the dress she wore at the finale of the first iCarly, which is actually kind of a cool detail, I had no idea. Despite the fact that they're in a big argument, Harper comes through anyway and helps her through an embarrassing wardrobe malfunction in front of all the cameras. And it's actually really sweet considering the two were really not on each other's side a little bit ago, and I'm happy it resolves with them. They end up making up and all is good by the end of the episode. And I really like this one. I do feel like the B-plot outshines the A-plot so much. Like, Carly and Harper's relationship doesn't feel threatened so much, and Freddie feels like the main character for some reason. If we look back at another old iCarly episode, we see I Don't Wanna Fight. Why? Because it's a Carly versus best friend episode. Of course, we have to cross-compare them. In this episode, it's Carly and Sam's friendiversary, and Carly ends up getting Sam a really thoughtful present. World's first iCarly t-shirt. Not only is it rare, it's sentimental, and it's one of a kind. Sam focuses on trying to pay back the favor to Carly by getting her tickets to the Cuttlefish concert. But when she finds out it's super expensive from this guy named Ripoff Rodney, which, by the way, this guy's hilarious, look at him.
Peacock feathers.
Yeah! Peacocks.
$20.
20?
Do you care about your nose or not?
You swear they're Laotian?
Guaranteed.
I'll take them.
Thanks, Ripoff Rodney. It's starting to feel like a Victorious character, the way this guy is. Yeah, she sells the shirt anyway, and doesn't realize how this would actually upset Carly, and the two get in a really big argument, with both of them being pretty stubborn about their sides. Freddie gets involved, and the whole episode is essentially about this argument. We see them mistreat each other over and over again, and it's really sad because, you know, they are so close. The entire web show kind of revolves around them being friends, and it even goes haywire when they try to pretend to be friends even though they're not. Like, the whole show starts to suffer. In the end, Freddie is able to turn their argument into a segment on iCarly and actually get them to make up. He ties their hair to a bunch of ropes and pulls it when they are interrupting one another, which is kind of rude. I don't know how Freddie set all that up. But yeah, there's a lot of differences between this episode and I Got Your Back from the new series. And I would argue that the old one, I Don't Want to Fight, comes from a lot more of a genuine place. It has a lot more funny moments. The characters feel ripe and the stakes feel high. It's almost nothing compared to the B-plot of I Don't Want to Fight, though, because Freddie's plot line is just so funny to me and Spencer acting in it is really good. I just feel like the original show's counterpart did a good job at weaving the web show into it as well, and having the emphasis on them actually fighting, like multiple scenes where they're not getting along, them trying to make it work, seeing what their friendship is worth, and having it get stronger over time is a really funny concept. In this, it's just Carly and Harper essentially building up anger and resentment toward each other, having it burst in one moment and fixed in the next. Like, there's not a lot that rides on it. I think this one could have reached a lot higher of a potential, but I wouldn't call it a complete failure. You know, like diving into the history of Harper and Carly in a way that's almost Drake and Josh style is a really rewarding experience. Like, you feel like it's honoring iCarly in a different way than you're used to, because obviously we're all nostalgic for Drake and Josh too. Why not just pull from those shows? They're doing a good job at appealing to the people watching the show, which is like me and you, like the people that grew up with the show originally. So they don't really want to recreate the old episodes. They want to change it for better or for worse. And in this scenario, it was a little bit for worse, which kind of sucks.
Don't you just love weddings?
Oh no, he's got wedding fever.
I just love celebrating love that lasts a lifetime.
Or in your case, 14 months.
Okay, so the next episode is iRobot Wedding, another Neville episode, continuing off the main series. This is the first time he's in this new show, and instead of actually cross-comparing it with the original Season 1 episode that I think it probably mimics, I think I want to start with the Season 1 episode first. Like, for example, iNeville. iNeville is Neville's debut episode, and the concept is basically there is another website going on to compete with iCarly that is just as popular. A cool concept, like a rivalry web show, definitely a good idea. And it's mainly about this kid who has always gotten what he wanted. He's so egotistical. He even gives Carly a picture of his brain, which is, when you think about it, kind of narcissistic. Neville tries to make a move on Carly, which she politely declines by shoving cake in his face, or tapenade as they called it. I do like the concept of an enemy that is younger than you, like an 11-year-old web show host. Like, he's already a pretty dynamic character right off the gate. And he needs to be a genius, you know, like they do that in all the Dan Schneider shows, like the Robot Wars episode of Zoe 101. They love having villain tech nerds, which, okay, at least it makes sense in this show. He kind of holds the power in the situation because his website gets so much more traffic than iCarly's, so they're actually worried about them being shut down, because this is when it was so little in popularity that you can get shut down. I mean, now iCarly is just all over the place, which is super funny because, like, by the end of the series, I feel like we don't hear anything about Neville and his web show. We just kind of see iCarly get better and better, and then him just become vindictive. I don't know. They end up trapping him with his fear of germs by having this sick kid at school hug him in iCarly. The way they solve this is kind of anticlimactic. They basically just tell his mother on him and he gets grounded, and that's the end of his first appearance. Then he comes back in I Rue the Day, where he essentially just hacks the web show and starts trying to work against them, which is a lot further than his initial idea. The iCarly gang end up going to his house and actually hacking his website, which is kind of a cool idea for a plot. Like, I wish they did that in this new show, like where there was like a heist going on and they had to hack into the mainframe. I don't know, that's a cool episode. That one though is weirdly resolved by the army getting involved, and they attack Neville and attach him to a string, a bungee string that he gets pasted to the ceiling. Okay, weird ending. But that kind of brings us to iRobot Wedding. See, this is kind of the annoying part off the bat. We start with a scene where it's Freddie, Millicent, Spencer, and Carly getting ready to go to Neville's wedding. They talk about how weird it is that they're invited, but even though they don't like him, they definitely have to make an appearance. And it kind of gives that vibe that it's like family. You know, like when you don't like somebody and you have to go to their wedding, like it's something like that. They did it on Drake and Josh when they got in the car to go to their great-grandmother's wedding. The only reason it annoys me is because they're not necessarily a family. Like in the original iCarly show, we get a lot of hints to their actual family and people they actually don't want to be around. But because this is referencing the main series, it feels like they didn't worry about the backstory or making these characters work on their own, so they just reference the old show as if it's their family. Like, they would have to go to Neville's wedding, which, no, you don't. You definitely didn't have a relationship worth nurturing. I don't get why anybody thinks they have to go to this wedding, and I don't know why Freddie would have to bring his daughter Millicent. Why would that have to happen? Freddie is weirdly defensive of weddings, saying it's like the most beautiful thing you could ever imagine, which I don't remember this in the original show. Like, he was not hype about weddings before. Harper doesn't want to go, and they kind of talk about the fact that it's robot themed, which I am immediately drawn to. I think that's such a cool idea, and this is actually referencing the tech nerd he was deep down in that earlier episode. There's a few things going on in this single location episode. Neville rubs his relationship into Carly's face about this, saying that while she had a failed relationship, he just got married, and it's clear that there might be an intention behind it. It becomes those episodes where it's like The Boy Who Cried Wolf, where it's like, oh, Neville's definitely up to something, but nobody can quite prove it, and I'm just wondering why you guys went to this wedding in the first place. Like, it sounds like you're just intentionally going to ruin it, and I don't know why Harper is here either. Like, she doesn't know Neville at all. There's a couple things going on here, and aside from the Neville situation, it's Harper and Spencer actually trying to pick up women, and whoever gets the most numbers by the end of the night wins. Really, really unnecessary side plot, but it is funny to see them attempt to one-up each other in that way. I definitely don't feel the dynamic here. It feels like they're going off to do their own separate things in parallel to each other, which doesn't necessarily make either of them more funny. And in Millicent and Freddie's side plot, he's just trying to get to know people, and she is getting in the way of that. She doesn't want to see Freddie get hurt, so she keeps coming between him and any other girl there is, which is kind of adorable. It's kind of sweet. The main story is the first plot twist, where Carly is convinced that Neville Papperman's fiance is actually a robot, that this whole theme is just a ploy to make it look normal that she's there. And it's funny because he has a speech saying that his family told him he needed to marry into the tech industry, which doesn't make any sense to me, but whatever. Everybody starts treating Carly weird by, like, comparing them, and it's weird that Freddie's actually the best man. Like, everything feels out of sorts. It doesn't even feel realistic. It feels like they're just taking the cast of characters and reorganizing them for, like, a single episode play. Not to say that this is a bad episode. It's got a lot of really funny jokes, and seeing Carly try to prove herself is really good. Freddie and Spencer's outfits for the wedding are to die for. I can't believe how cool a robot wedding sounds. It tries to be sweet by having the fiance actually open up to Carly and care about the main cast, but really it's just to get out exposition, tell them that she has a secret and there's a plate in her head, which doesn't feel super genuine telling somebody new for the first time. It makes me think that she's just like a trauma dumper. It gets crazier when Neville actually confronts Carly and says he's tired of the cat and mouse game, which is so funny that he's like still assuming they have a chance at a relationship, that maybe Carly's only acting out of suspicion because she's jealous. Like, that is so far from the truth. Carly runs to disrupt the wedding, and apparently Neville announces that Prunella's out and Carly's the one taking over, which is downright shocking. It's actually kind of cool though, because it adds context to the fact that maybe everybody's there, or maybe everybody's invited because it's Carly's crew. But then everything gets turned around when Prunella says she actually does love Neville, and he never had been loved before, so he's moved by it, and then they decide to actually get married, which I would be kind of annoyed that you just tried to replace our entire wedding with another girl. Like, why isn't that talked about? And then Millicent kind of has a talk with Freddie, pushing him to go ask Carly to dance instead of any of the girls here, which, oh my gosh, guys, you're not being subtle. We know they're gonna end up together. All around, it's great to see Neville back, but guys, it feels like a little unnatural, and I don't know if I'm falling for it. This is like one of the first times after iFauxpologize where I'm like, I don't know if I 100% agree with what they're putting out here. But hey, it's not terrible. If this is one of the worst episodes, I still don't think it's that bad.
Yeah, she's gone. Oh, best $20 of my life. We both know there's no curse. That's not great. aneurysms are the #1 cause of death for party performers. Wow. Yes, in the corner. Also, we're low on ice if they want to grab some on the way. Hello? Hello?
Episode 6 of the new iCarly is called I Am Cursed. And it's taking a reference back to the original series where Carly has had horrible birthdays in the past. The whole cold open is her warning everybody that she wants to keep it low-key and not make it a big deal. We get another cameo from Principal Franklin from the original series, which feels a little unnecessary when he gets there and isn't really interested in talking to them. Like, he doesn't even say goodbye to the kids after he leaves. Look at this, just walking out.
Bye.
Yeah, that's crazy. They have a little bit of an existential moment when they get these letters from him that are letters to their future selves. Freddie gets insecure that he's never done anything worthwhile, like partying or anything that he thinks he should be doing, which is kind of annoying. I hate that he gets the short end of the stick this much just because he's a tech nerd. Like, I get it, like a lot of things don't work out for him, but they shouldn't send out the message that you could produce your own web show, you could get good grades, be a responsible person, and then your entire adult life you'll be screwed over. Like, that's a weird message. Carly's just happens to be about her birthday, which is kind of crazy to me. So Carly is super cautious, doesn't want to have a big blowout birthday. But Spencer wants to throw her a big blowout birthday, and there's this funny parallel scene where Carly is talking to Millicent about why she really doesn't feel comfortable with something like that, and then Spencer is talking to Harper about how it's going to be the best idea, but Harper keeps warning him, which, I don't know, it kind of makes Spencer seem like kind of a jerk. Like, he's her brother, like, he definitely would remember why she didn't like it, like, he was there when the goat was, whatever that means. So it's clear Spencer's planning the party, and Carly is expecting nothing, and doesn't want anything, actually. Meanwhile, Freddie's suffering his midlife crisis and bringing Millicent into it, which is kind of depressing. So they show up to Carly's apartment and find a whole stash of things that Mrs. Benson apparently hid from him, including a skateboard and a bunch of other things that could be potentially dangerous. And I wish this plot was a little bit more about Freddie and his mom. Like, I feel like we could have had a little Mrs. Benson resentment episode and actually, like, dove deeper into their relationship instead of Freddie just doing what they think is comically funny. Like, it just feels unnatural to me. The only episode I could really tie this to from the original series is from the second season, actually, because I could not find a first season one, and it's called I Make Sam Girlier. Why? Just because it's a birthday episode. In that episode, Sam basically gets a surprise party, and it doesn't turn out to be the way any of the cast wanted, because they end up saying everything they love about Sam, and she takes it as a really negative thing, like they're insulting her, which, aw, that's kind of sad when you think about it. The rest of the episode is her trying to make up for this existential crisis, which is definitely similar to what Carly and Freddie are going to in this episode, but which one really did it better? I feel like this has a real direct payoff where we're actually about to see the party and everything get resolved, but the original episode actually has them take their time. It's not just like one location, it's a lot of going through their lives, and this one feels a little limited in that sense. But let's keep going. Carly's enjoying her birthday in her apartment when Spencer texts her to come over to his apartment, and oh my god, this is so funny. She shows up, and everybody is here, and she is horrified. Oh my god, Principal Franklin even has a line here. Look at this.
Principal Franklin?
What can I say? I got a Google alert for Champagne Tower.
But yeah, Harper's like, I warned him, I don't know what to do. And Carly's next goal is to just survive this party, which is kind of a funny concept. I just feel like it's not that interesting the way they do it. Somehow Harper is trying to impress a guy named Xavier, who is a fashion photographer. So in order to complete both their goals, I guess she uses bubble wrap to give Carly a safe outfit that is also fashionable. And the guy loves it for some reason, which, guy, they just attached bubble wrap to her. That is not impressive. Spencer tries to help Carly through this whole event, which is actually kind of sweet, him trying a little bit harder, but the fact that he did this in the first place without listening to her is exactly why it, like, almost doesn't feel redeemable. It makes him look more like a jerk. But they bring this, like, tarot card reader or fortune teller, I don't know, just to tell her all she has to do is burn the letter, which is kind of a weird solution, but she seems pretty happy with it, so I'm not gonna question it, Carly. But good for her. It's nice to see her actually, like, get over this birthday fear, but the episode's not over yet. Freddie hardcore embarrasses himself by acting like a literal high schooler or college kid with a bunch of kids following him around, too. Like, it's crazy. Oh my god, Doug Brochu is here again. He was an extra in a lot of the original iCarly, and now he's just here, which is kind of funny. I don't know, he doesn't look at all like his original self just because of the long hair, but I'm gonna move past that. After Carly feels like her situation's resolved, the fortune teller dies. Yeah, Spencer has to get through the end of Carly's party by making her convinced that the whole thing went super well and everything is good now and nobody died. But he died. And this is where I wish the whole episode was more circled on this, not like the last 5 minutes. This is the most interesting part. I don't need to see how long it took for them to get to this place. I feel like Carly and the fortune teller should have happened way earlier in the episode and we could have just had a lot more fun at this party, but I don't know, everything feels a little bit rushed in this episode, and I Make Sam Girlier kind of does it better, just because of the extra locations and utilizing them to their advantage. I feel like this show could have had the edge over it, but it just ended up getting too dialogue heavy. Still, it's nice to see Principal Franklin again. Oh well. The interesting thing I didn't realize till now is the reference to iFence, like the whole Freddie plotline of him trying to live life to its fullest, because he's always been held back by his mom. That was definitely done in iFence with him and Spencer, and that was a really good episode, and their dynamic was always so funny. It's so different than the new show, but I do think their relationship is pretty much kept intact. I feel like if they took a little bit more pointers on that side plot to the Freddie and Mrs. Benson plot line, it could have been a lot more interesting. It makes it seem like this episode is a little bit more rushed than those episodes. So there's a lot going on, really.
Maybe. It seems kind of fun.
Oh, it is. I live for Leap In.
Don't do it.
Don't do what?
Don't leap in.
So the next episode is Season 1, Episode 7, I Need Space. And this one is really cool because it definitely utilizes modern technology, and it's really good when it does that. It's making me think that almost there's more ideas now than the original iCarly to really go off of, which is something that works in this show's favor. I can't imagine if it would be good at all if technology didn't advance the way it did, or the original iCarly didn't have the impact it did. The plot is that Spencer actually met a lady, and she runs this whole space that's kind of like a public office salon. It's a hangout place. I don't even know how to describe it, honestly, guys. We actually see Carly working on editing her own videos, which is interesting to me. I feel like that would have been Freddie's only purpose. Not only does he not really hold a camera now, but he doesn't even do the one other technical thing you would probably have to do for the show. Whatever. The woman that Spencer's dating comes over, and the two enjoy a nice glass of wine, which is still disorienting to see for a kid's show. Carly and Harper kind of get into a disagreement about the fact that they can't work in the same space, the iCarly studio, which, Harper, why would you think that is just allowed to be yours? This is her brother's apartment, and can't one person go to the apartment you actually have? I don't know why space is an issue here. But yeah, they meet Spencer's girlfriend through an argument about the space they had together. Spencer's girlfriend is surprisingly excited to meet Carly, which is kinda sketch, and they tell her about a whole she pitches them the ladies-only working space where they would fit in really well. Harper and Carly love the idea and both agree to go. Millicent is a part of a Girl Scout troop in the B-plot. We really see how funny Millicent is in this moment, she makes a life insurance policy, because all the other Girl Scouts are trying to sell cookies, and she is standing out in the crowd, she does not fit in at all, which is not necessarily a bad thing. She seems a lot more impressive than them. We see Freddie actually get to be a father by contributing to the Girl Scout troop, which is the only realistic relation I've seen in this show so far. Millicent ends up quitting the Girl Scouts to start her own cookie selling business with Freddie. Weird. So the space looks perfect, a great co-working environment. They have all these different things to do, and they keep promoting this idea that it's the perfect place to just chill for your downtime. It reminds me a lot of how gyms are nowadays. Post-COVID world, we're trying to find new ways to exist in the same space, and I think this woman is just trying to promote that. But there's something sketchy going on. One of the girls almost warns the main crew not to trust this place, and we don't really know what that means right off the bat, but I'm a little terrified. Millicent and Freddie start their own cookie business and actually employ other people, but it just makes me feel bad for Freddie. Does he really have nothing else to do with his life at this point? It does remind me of the I Sell Penny Teas plot line, though, because just the fact that they're making a whole business, that's cool. So Harper essentially falls for this scam. She loves going to this new co-working place, and really, defends it, while Carly is very skeptical and keeps seeing eerie stuff going on. This woman keeps trying to get Carly to join, and after Harper joins, it's almost like hard for her to say no. Carly tries to warn Spencer, who also doesn't believe her. And I wish he was a little bit funnier in this scene. Like, Carly is approaching you about your girlfriend possibly being evil, and Spencer is not being, like, as funny, happy-go-lucky as he usually is. He's more serious in this moment, which is kind of weird. So Carly heads back to the space to try to find proof that something's going on. She ends up finding, like, a whole security camera room and finds out that this girl, Argentina, actually watches everything that goes on in every room, which is kind of uncomfortable, especially for privacy rights. Kind of feels like a commentary on Apple and like how people are just listening to you through your phones. Like, I don't know, it's weird. This is where we see kind of a jerky side of Freddie. He takes this Girl Scout cookie business him and Millicent are doing a little bit too far, like actually making it his whole life, redesigning the website, making everything perfect, and it's definitely reeking of somebody that doesn't like to do their own creative endeavors, so once they get a job or something that they care about career-wise, they turn it into their whole personality. Yeah, that kind of doesn't do good for Freddie. I wish this character had a little bit more positive traits at this point, but what can you do? Freddie and Millicent end up getting in a fight about this and actually resolve the problem, which is sweet. I like seeing these guys actually care about one another, but it does feel a little forced at times. If this dynamic, this comedy duo like Sam and Freddie used to be, is supposed to be Freddie and Millicent, it really isn't reading that way. I mean, I get it, Millicent is devious, she could easily be the crazy person and he is the straight man, but I don't know, I feel like it's almost missing something. So nobody believes Carly until Harper and Spencer see it for themselves and actually find the control room. So this woman actually threatens Carly that she will delete Harper's hard work if she doesn't go on iCarly and promote her business, which is, wow, that's really dark. But I like that it's an adult show and actually has a lot of big stakes at mind. Spencer and Harper come in to save the day right before they're about to do it, and they actually get her to admit what she's doing is wrong. The ending feels a little anticlimactic because it's not like they're like, Harper ends up getting her flash drive back and Argentina ends up coming clean about everything, which is weird because the business still exists. I don't know. This episode was a lot of fun for the scam aspect, although it does remind me a lot of iMLM, which is an episode that's about to come up where they're doing scams, but I guess scamming is a normal thing in this day and age, so we should talk about it a lot. If I had to compare this episode to anything in particular, it would be iCarly Saves TV. And in that episode, Carly, Sam, and Freddie get an offer to actually have iCarly be a sitcom on television. They redo the set. They have this whole TV producer that essentially walks through them making their show a thing. And it's kind of parroting the whole world of entertainment and how you have to change things in order to make them perfect for everybody. And that's what it kind of reminds me of here, like this dystopian cult-like group of people that are trying to get Carly to compromise. But here's the thing. If we're talking about these episodes back to back and which one did it better, obviously iCarly Saves TV did this in a more gradual and entertaining way. Like, they took aspects out of the situation one by one. And this new show just feels like it's doing that like 20 times worse. Like, sure, there's a lot of funny jokes and I think the plotline is really intricate and interesting. But the threat of Harper not having her hard drive doesn't happen until like the later half of the episode. Carly doesn't actually have a chance to fall for leaped in, so it doesn't really matter. She's like against it the entire time. And Spencer feels just like a prop in this, where he's not really doing that much. Like, if he had a couple jokes, I feel like that goes a long way in this show, but it didn't even get that far. Freddie's relationship with Millicent in this episode is really spot on and makes it feel like this whole episode is worth watching, but if it wasn't for this side plot, I do feel like the whole Carly storyline is not necessary and almost diluting everything that's good about it. So we're just gonna have to move on.
There's something I've been meaning to tell you.
Okay, shoot.
Season 1, Episode 8 is called I Love Gwen, and this one is actually a lot more fun than I thought it would be. So Millicent's mom is in the picture. I'm assuming they adopted her together. This woman's a marine biologist, and more importantly, Freddie's ex. She's in town because Millicent is going to be in the school play. Meanwhile, Carly is not happy, or at least it seems like she's not happy. The second they get a private moment together, Gwen and Carly actually get along really well. So it's revealed that Carly is almost so ashamed of her friendship, she and Gwen try to hide it from Freddie. They just don't want him to feel bad, which is kind of sweet, I guess. The B-plot in this is actually really good. Millicent convinces Spencer and Harper to help out with the show because apparently the costume designer and the set designer dropped out. Real convenient. This inspires both of them to join because they haven't really had moments where they can express themselves like that. And this is some of my favorite Spencer moments. Like, this B-plot is actually really strong. I love seeing him jump back into art just to design the school stage. Like, that's such a good idea. The episode's really sweet. It's essentially Carly and Millicent both suspecting that Gwen and Freddie kind of have more feelings for each other than they let on, and maybe they should be back together. And one of the best parts of this episode is when Carly and Millicent are actually concocting a plan to let them have alone time together so they can actually reconnect. And the only way they could do this for real is getting Freddie's mom out of the picture so they have her at a sleepover. And she says like, oh, I've never been in a sleepover before. And I'm like, Miss Benson, that is not surprising. And her craziness gets stepped up a notch. She has a puzzle that is Freddie. And it's like, okay, I don't think a mom would be that insane. Actually, On their alone time, Gwen admits to Freddie that she's actually seeing somebody, and Freddie isn't super heartbroken about this, so we know that there's not a lot at stake, honestly. Like, it kind of downplays it a little bit. But of course, that's just enough for Carly and Millicent to make enough assumptions to let everybody down. We jump to the school play, which is already fun, with Harper and Spencer taking it super competitively. A lot more interesting than them fighting over girls for their numbers. Like, this is more their speed, like fighting over art. It's a lot more about their characters and a lot funnier. Millicent goes into the play with really high hopes because she gets to see her parents finally be back together again, and this is about to get really sad. Carly is also under the assumption that this is going to happen, and I'm kind of sad that we ditched the fact that they're friends being the main plot. Like, I wish it would be more about Carly hiding this secret. I don't think we needed to add another layer, but, you know, it's still fun. Carly confirms that this is definitely not happening, and she needs to give Millicent a signal so that way she doesn't embarrass herself by, like, devoting the show to her parents getting back together. Meanwhile, the stage starts to fall apart a little bit. Spencer made it out of toast, by the way. I don't know how he conjured up that, but it's very classic Spencer. Like, I love that he put this together. It's kind of beautiful. And he keeps coming in during the show, which, by the way, would never happen in an actual high school production, to keep fixing the set. Carly ends up going on stage in character, stealing the role from a little girl, just to use awkward Shakespeare context to convince Millicent that she shouldn't speak about her parents getting back together. And it's actually really kind of sad. It would be even sadder if it wasn't hilarious because Spencer just breaks the set, and that's just where it ends. Millicent is heartbroken live on stage, and all these parents are here to see this awkward display of affection. There's like no other kids in this show either. Like, they're not even trying to convince us this is real. Spencer definitely made up for most of it though. Like, his comedy in this is hilarious. Freddie also discovers that Carly and Gwen are friends, which doesn't really have any consequences, so what was the point of it anyway? I just wish they either focused on Carly and Gwen being friends, keeping that a secret, or Carly and Millicent trying to put their parents back together. I don't know why that had to be about both. And I wish the web show was incorporated a little bit more, or Carly's influence over people, because it feels like it's very condensed just to fit Millicent's middle school life, but I guess there's nothing wrong with that. I didn't have a problem. Now, this is going to be kind of a stretch of a comparison, but if you ever saw the episode Season 1, Episode 8 of iCarly, I Spy a Mean Teacher, it's a really fun episode. It's basically Carly and Freddie spying on Mrs. Briggs, and when they're about to get caught, they end up getting stuck in her home where they get locked in the room with all this Randy Jackson merch. The entire episode is them essentially trying to get out of their location and not get the teacher to figure out what they were up to in the first place. And pretty much you're in trouble the whole time. She ends up catching them and she makes them apologize on the webcast, and she hijacks the show just to play her Irish instrument. It kind of reminds me of the other episode just in spirit because it's this clash between the kids' high school life and also having the performance at the end of the episode. I Love Gwen deals with a lot of similar escalating comedy, like having Freddie's mom join them at the sleepover, the play going wrong and Spencer needing to get involved. The situations just get more and more ridiculous the more Carly tries to put her 2 cents into the situation. And while I really love the I Love Gwen episode itself, it doesn't really compete with iSpy, A Mean Teacher, because all the critiques I had about the original episode don't really apply. Like, iSpy, A Mean Teacher does end on iCarly, which is like the influence I said I wanted. It focuses on one main plot and just focuses on the kids. And it's just confusing to me why a show with like 20 episodes in one season could somehow be better than the show that had 13 episodes to really take their time. The jokes in the original episode just get better and more ridiculous with this whole Randy Jackson situation, and the bitterness of Miss Briggs just gets to an all-time high. It's also reminding me a little bit of the episode where they set Spencer up with their teacher. In that episode, Spencer's relationship with another woman really takes over the kids' lives to a point where they start failing classes because Spencer is not with her anymore. The stakes are a little bit different because it's from the kids' perspective and like this whole relationship affects everything they do. But in the I Love Gwen episode, the relationship doesn't affect too much, especially when it comes to Carly's perspective. Like, if the influence and the web show were involved, maybe Carly could have had a stake in the fact them not working out, but they kind of didn't, so it felt a little off to me. But you know what? Comedy goes a really long way with me, and I had so much fun with this episode that I overlooked most of those things.
I hear you saying you're good, but I still need to acknowledge the cruelty of my actions. I never should have accused you of caring too much. If anything, I should have accused you of being just so gosh darn wonderful. Come here.
Aww.
Now, this next one is definitely like my favorite episode. It's called iMLM, and it's good because it's dealing with things that actually go on in our time. Like pyramid schemes, scams, like the darker sides of the internet. We took time in the last 10 years to really view these things a lot lighter as opposed to the original iCarly when things were so new, it wasn't clear whether it was super dangerous or even talking about web show stuff wouldn't get kids into trouble. But here it's like, okay, it's fun to joke about a pyramid scheme. Also, the commentary on pop culture is really funny. So in this episode, Carly reconnects with Griffin. Yeah, the Pee-wee baby's boy. It's already hard not to compare this episode to I Date a Bad Boy because Griffin's involved, but it doesn't really have to do with Griffin as much as it has to do with Freddie. Carly gets into the idea of crystals, and I don't know, it feels more relatable than usual. Basically, Griffin has to reach out, and they catch up with Carly thinking that he wants to get back together. But really, he tells her about this new kind of sand that almost acts as like this therapeutic aroma that can calm somebody down and make them comfortable. Carly immediately gets in on this and agrees, like it's really nice. And she too is calm because of all of it. This sand has a domino effect on all of the main characters' lives, as Spencer's been told by a woman he was gonna date that he was insensitive, that he wasn't super listening or caring. And then he tries the sand, and then suddenly he's the most sensitive guy on earth, which is so funny for Spencer to think that, like, that's all it took is sand. This is the tragic part. So Freddie saved up about, like, $4,000 to finally get to leave his mother's house, which, by the way, $4,000, 2 months rent, Freddie, 2 months. Basically, the tech world is not going good for him, so he's kind of having like an identity crisis. He doesn't know what to do with his life. Things go completely crazy when Freddie likes the sand so much he buys $4,000 worth of it, and then he's essentially convinced he's going to be rich because of this. Carly's so into the sand that she too wants to promote it, so she's like, okay, let's do a web show where we actually try to get people to buy this thing, because that would be cool. The B-plot with Millicent is really funny because she wants a pet and Freddie won't get her a dog. She makes this funny presentation in black and white, and this really sells her for me. Like, she's adorable to do all this. Does she even know that black and white was a thing back then? She ends up adopting a fish and carrying it around like it's a child, which is so funny. Like, she even has like a harness for it to go out in public. Meanwhile, Harper is having trouble at her job because she just wants to go about life and not have to work at Skybox. when she runs into Millicent and finds out that the fish food is actually exactly the same as the sand that Freddie, Spencer, and Carly have been using. And it's revealed that this is definitely a scam. It's a multi-level marketing scheme. Not sure if you guys heard about that, but it's basically when the whole job in itself is to recruit others, buy a bunch of faulty products, and then basically pawn it off to somebody else so that way you get the money. And it's basically people scamming other people. I hate it because I used to have friends that would fall for stuff like this and start asking other people to buy stuff from them, and it's kind of a gross look on people, which makes it even crazier that Griffin is at the forefront of this. This definitely is a great episode for Harper because I feel like she hasn't really found her place in the cast a lot of times, but here, running to quit her job just to warn the main cast what she realized is a nice way to integrate her into this whole thing. As they put this thing on sale during the webcast, Harper comes in just in time to warn Carly, who is borderline going to have a panic attack on stage. And I feel horrible for Freddie because he too has spent more money than anybody ever. They openly admit what the sand was, and Griffin claims he knew it the whole time, which I feel like if you were in an MLM scheme, you wouldn't actually be that aware or you wouldn't be involved, unless he is really that bad of a person that he's just trying to scam everybody. Which it seems like, because Carly asks he wanted to reconnect because he liked her, and he says, yeah, oh, I guess I could like you, which is like kind of crazy. And there's so little iCarly episodes that compare to this. One, because it's just so modern and it feels like a new show. And I feel like I could confidently say this feels like a good sitcom episode. Literally, the plot goes across every character and culminates in one final showcase, which is that whole sand thing. And with Freddie being at the worst possible position makes it really fun to root for him. I feel like this is the show at its peak. It does exactly what it should do as a revival. Although it does kind of remind me of iCarly Saves TV, because that's the episode where they take the original show of iCarly, the web show, and try to make it into a sitcom, in a time where sitcoms actually carried more weight. Oh my god, can you guys imagine? But yeah, there was a distinct villain, the same way Griffin was in this episode, but there it's a TV producer. And the more they get into the show, the more they develop it, the more it feels like a scam. With Andre Harris being a guest star. No, I'm just kidding. I know that's not his real name. It's Leon Thomas III. But everything goes haywire. It just consistently builds. All the characters are dealing with the same issue, which goes up until the end of the episode. It requires all the main characters to take a really good look at themselves and see if they really want to do this, along with legal things getting in the way, the same way money gets involved in Freddie's life. So essentially, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation where the characters are just plain stuck, making for better comedy than any TV show ever. So if you guys had to start the iCarly revival, I would definitely recommend this episode if you wanted to get a good taste right off the bat.
Oh, that is incredible.
Oh, so good.
Fun ruckus here. Let's get this party started. Oh, looks like the party already started.
Okay, so we have Season 1, Episode 10 of iCarly, I Take a Girls Trip. This episode is actually really funny because it takes some pretty unexpected turns and really uses the adult sitcom format in its favor when it comes to some of the jokes in this. So the whole premise is that Carly is going to be taking a girls trip with Harper and her other friend, but Harper finds out that her long lost cousin has finally come back from sea or from being kidnapped. It's kind of dark, but they don't really go into it too much. So basically Carly finds herself having to go out on this girls trip by herself. At first Freddie is like, hey, like, I want to go on a girls trip, which is so Freddie. I feel like I was always that guy growing up, the one who wanted to go on all the girl trips with the girls, but never quite fitting in. I feel like at this point it's good though, because I really do feel for Harper. I feel like since the iMLM episode, she's become a lot more relatable, and just the fact that she's kind of smarter than everybody else is really helpful for the cast. I mean, usually the dynamic was Sam making things a little extra, but Harper almost like grounds the show in a way that the original show didn't need to be, you know? The really fun thing about this episode is that Spencer actually has a crush on her. This is like the first time they've ever set us up with somebody in Spencer's life that they didn't intend on leaving by the end of the 30 minutes. they definitely got a good vibe going on. I mean, I think it's just funny to see Spencer trying to get out there again, but to think that he's actually like forming a connection with this poor woman who was lost at sea for so long, it's very special. Like, good for you, Spencer. He didn't get some of those plot lines in the original series. Of course, poor Harper, like, she just found her long-lost cousin, and next thing you know, she got a boyfriend and moved on. Like, I mean, I would be kind of annoyed at that. That's just how it be sometimes. So when Freddie and Carly get to the hotel, they basically find out that they're in the lover's suite, which is kind of random to me because she was intending this to be a girls' trip, not a romantic trip anyway. But they're hooked up into the same room, which is really awkward, especially when you're in a guy and a girl. Like, it reminds me of growing up and you're like, your friends are joking about you being in a relationship with your friends. It's like when you have a friend that's a girl and they just insist that you guys are dating just because you're a guy and a girl, which is so overrated at this age. Or when your parents try to pair you up with your best friends, like, it's so awkward. What a weird time to be alive. It's so funny though, because Carly and Freddie have such good chemistry. I feel like this is a little too obvious. Like, you guys should just be together. I don't know. They do a good job at like dodging that being the case though. I feel like the scenario makes it seem like they're pushing them together, but the characters are genuinely dodging each other and trying not to make it happen, which is making it even weirder. Like, they start using bathrobes and trying to pretend that it's like a normal girls' trip just with Freddie, but then it gets even weirder when the lights go down and the music starts playing. Yeah, the room is trying to set these guys up. This was one of the first episodes I remember really liking of the new iCarly series, being like, okay, this is actually why you would do a reboot. Seeing the awkwardness get funnier and funnier is just so perfect for this show. Like, it's what I'm looking for in a comedy. But then we have a guest star in this episode, and this girl actually wrote some of the episodes of this show and other episodes in she's a TV writer, and she's really funny. I've seen her on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. She's been in a lot more stuff since the 2010s, I would say. And low-key, it just gets even more weird from here. Like, they have flower petals fall, and even Carly's friend that wasn't supposed to come on this trip ends up showing up anyway. Now, the girl and Freddie almost take a liking to each other, so that actually makes things a little awkward. And we're not sure if Carly's mad because she feels jealous, or just the fact that they hijacked her girls' trip. For me, the girls' trip thing is kind of disrespectful. I feel like Carly and Freddie were just supposed to have this hangout on their own, and Freddie shouldn't be this naive to think that this is appropriate. Like, this is so rude. They end up spending a lot more time with each other than Carly. I mean, fair enough. They don't want to be in that awkward situation of just the two of them alone in a room, but this girl added to the mix makes it a little bit worse. Then it for sure becomes a couple's trip, but Carly is not the couple, which is actually kind of funny. I think this episode's really funny. And good for Freddie finally connecting with a girl. Like, it's been forever since this has happened. These are the moments that make me think of Zoe 101 in this show. Like, I feel like the original show doesn't even lean toward being like Zoe 101 more than this new show. I think it's just the two close friends being together is just... it's more natural in this, and I like that it kind of stays within the universe that we're nostalgic for, because, you know, it shows that we were interested in stories like that anyway, you know? So yeah, meanwhile, the same awkward thing is going on with Harper, because Spencer and Harper's cousin start full-on dating, and it's actually kind of sweet. Like, seeing Spencer be this into her is really nice. Nice change of pace. I wish there was more storylines like that. So now Harper's getting jealous the same way Carly is, and it is just a nightmare for these two girls. They end up having like a heart-to-heart over FaceTime, and they admit that neither of them are that happy. Oh my gosh, and then things get way over budget. No, I'm just kidding. Things get way awkward. Next thing you know, Carly's friend assumes that they are going to be engaging in a three-way, which usually I am a kids channel, so I'm not going to explain to you guys what that is. But it's basically all of the three of them hooking up, and this is drawing the line for Freddie. Like, he likes this new girl, but it's so awkward with Carly that it's just not happening. Which is nice. I like that he has boundaries. I feel like early Freddie from the first series was just kind of desperate and would do anything for Carly, but at least this guy is an adult. The episode kind of ends there. Like, there's not a super definitive ending. It just kind of escalates so much to a point where Freddie leaves it alone, and Carly returns from the trip being like, I barely survived that. And everybody's happy for some reason. I guess that's a resolve. And Spencer and this girl keep dating, which is also sweet. Like, we'll see this in the next episode. So this episode can actually be really close to season 1, episode 9 of the original series, I Will Date Freddie. And in this, there's basically a girl that has a crush on Freddie that goes to their school. Now that I think about it, that's like insane. And basically they're like, okay, come on iCarly and we'll hook up you and Freddie. Or Freddie just is like, oh yeah, I would love to go on a date with you, and obviously cue Sam's insults. They end up going out together and actually forming a connection. But in this instance, it's more so Carly suffering for Freddie's love life. I guess this is like the theme of the episode. Carly just happens to get the short end of the stick because the girl Freddie is set up with wants to do her own web show and wants Freddie to do that for her. Freddie ends up doing it for her and being her web producer instead. And Carly is really hurt by this. I mean, I would be too, because obviously he just got this new girlfriend and he's ditching his friends for her. Like, that stinks, but that's what happens. In the end, it leads to a lot of awkward moments, but this whole episode didn't really go for the comedic effect of awkward. It more so went for the plot of them not having the web show for a little bit, which I feel like maybe the new iCarly could have leaned into, but otherwise, I don't know. I feel like this is a near perfect episode of the reboot. Like, I would definitely recommend this episode specifically if you need to get into it. And if you don't like it, you might not like the show. What can I say? Another episode this reminds me of is I Hate Sam's Boyfriend from season 1. Mainly because Carly is the third wheel in that scenario. Like Sam starts dating that kid Jonah, and then Carly just feels really awkward, and then Jonah hits on her. I mean, maybe there's that whole love triangle situation that also reminds me of it, but I don't know. I can't tell if it's I Hate Sam's Boyfriend or that other episode I was just talking about. It's still interesting that they got this many characteristics of the first show without necessarily repeating any of the plot lines. Like, I'm really impressed by that.
You sure what?
Hi. Welcome to class, everyone.
Season 1, episode 11 is called I Can Fix It Myself. And it's kind of a funny episode, honestly. Yeah, so Carly is getting her car towed because she's parked in a wrong spot, and she meets this really obnoxious auto body mechanic, but also has love tension with. It's cool because it's insight onto how her job really is done. Like, she's an influencer, yeah, but she has to go record videos. Like, this is normal to wear a taco costume out in public. I wish I knew what these videos were, though. At least on iCarly, the original, we got to see what these videos ended up being. Like, what does she do as an influencer? I would love to know. Oh, yeah, but this guy basically tows her car. And then the auto body mechanic's name is Wes. And he's actually kind of a nice guy. I feel like in the circumstances, he could be a little bit more rude, but he's pretty genuine to Carly. Carly thinks that he's trying to rip her off, essentially. Like, auto body people usually find stuff wrong with your car just to charge you. And I gotta be honest, I agree with it. My dad is an auto body mechanic, and he owns his own business. And he purposely, like, has to quote people lower just to get their trust, because most car companies will just, like, say there's something wrong with your car when there isn't, just to get a repair. So yeah, Carly, you're right for being suspicious of this. Sus of this. Freddie literally said in this episode that he had to get his oil changed, and it cost $400. Guys, as an adult, that's too much money to spend to get your oil changed. That's insane, actually. $400. Not only can you do it yourself, guys, but I still feel like if you went to a mechanic that upcharged you, it wouldn't be $400. That's crazy. That stuff should be like $100, $200 at the very max. Spencer and this new girl are now dating. And then in this episode, something crazy Harper's cousin admits is that she didn't actually get taken. So Carly inevitably tries to go to school and learn how to fix all the car parts herself, which is pretty admirable. Like, I feel like to seek out opportunities to learn more about things we should be responsible and know about our cars. This is a cool thing that Carly does, and Freddie joins the class too. It's just fun to have a new class dynamic, knowing that there's no way we would see these guys in the classroom like we used to, but actually we get a setting where things can go haywire and actually be pretty funny. And the fact that the teacher ends up being Wes, the auto body guy from earlier, Carly is kind of angry because she's like, oh, I kind of told this guy off for being a stingy auto body guy, and now he's teaching the class? Carly literally tries to convince everybody in the class that she already knows how to do this stuff just so she doesn't look embarrassed in front of Wes, and it is hilarious watching her attempt to know what to do. Like, I don't even know what she should be doing. Carly tries to learn on her own how to repair her car, and it's not happening, Carly. I mean, like, why would you pay for the class just to prove to the class that you know what the class is teaching? I don't know, it's ridiculous to me. In this episode, we actually get introduced to another kind of popular character toward the end. It's Harper's boss. She's a professional singer, somebody super famous, and she is basically walking on eggshells around her because of how famous she is. This ends up being a love story, which I did not see coming, but this is just the initial introduction of this woman. She's kind of snotty and very selfish, being the most stereotypical version of a celebrity you can imagine, which I don't even know if people have celebrities anymore like that. It's kind of funny to think that, like, Skybucks was Harper's whole B-plot, this whole show, and then they kind of replaced it with this relationship with her new boss. Like, she didn't have this boss before. It's funny to think that, like, they transitioned through that, you know? And can you believe that Nathan Kress wrote this episode? That is insane to me. Like, he is already so talented at acting, and now he just gets to write stuff? Like, come on. Pretending to know how to fix a car, Carly ends up making her own car worse, and needs to call Wes to help her. Wes essentially steps in and tries to fix the car for her, and we find out that it's too late. Her car did not make it, and it was unreplaceable. And it's kind of funny because they treat it like a funeral, like as if this guy Wes is delivering horrible news, and Carly takes it like terribly. We learned that actually it's because she had an emotional connection with the car and Sam, and it reminded her of Sam every time, which is really sweet and definitely a great callback, a way of featuring Sam without necessarily disrespecting Jeanette McCurdy's legacy, more like honoring her character. So yeah, when he tells Carly that her car is not gonna make it, it's like really dramatic, and he's there to console her, as if it's like this horrible death. And they end up deciding to go on a date together. Ooh, okay. And then we kind of get a pleasant surprise in the episode. Not only is the Sam reference really sweet, but Spencer ends up taking the part of her car and remastering it in a way, putting his art skills to the test, and making a brand new car for the iCarly set, which is very it's very symbolic because it's like the growth of the show, but now that it has like an entirely new show, it almost is like this is our way of saying like this is going to be our new project, you know, like iCarly is fresh and new and in the future now, so we need a new car. Wow, such a cool idea. Yeah, but overall, really good episode. I wish we got a little bit more of Millicent, but there was enough going on with the main cast to be interesting enough. And I just like Freddie being sprinkled throughout this, not necessarily having to do with the plot, still having some one-liners. Oh my gosh, and I forgot to mention that Harper's cousin comes clean about lying. And this is kind of a major blow. Like, if I was Harper, I would be like more than betrayed. Like, you pretended to disappear forever? And it's so funny because it starts off as like a clever one-off joke throughout the season, like she's just talking about her cousin who got taken away, and suddenly we get to see her come back. I was not expecting that through line at all, honestly. This episode has a lot of I go to detention vibes. That's the episode where Carly and Sam get thrown into detention for an episode, but they had to celebrate iCarly's 50th anniversary. 50th web show anniversary. I'm like, 50 years, that would be insane. Yeah, so the 50th web show anniversary, just in the sense that it's a entire classroom episode, like after the second act on, it's them trying to make the web show go through live, and all these things are kind of getting in the way of it happening. It's just when they're in the auto body class, it just reminds me a lot of Consequences when it comes to like education, I guess, because Carly's pretending she knows what to do. It's a hard one. But I like that we're developing new characters and, like, new people outside of the original iCarly universe. Like, it's feeling a lot more of its own vibe. And the fact that they find a funny way to do it, the fact that they get Freddie still in on the storyline without necessarily driving the entire plot is really interesting. Spencer's entire subplot is also super funny. Like, if we get funny Spencer, then I feel like iCarly is kind of made in the shade already. They do a good job. Like Carly and Spencer are the center point, and it really makes it shine in these types of episodes, especially when there's a lot of external issues they have to deal with, you know? So yeah, definitely, like, I go to detention.
Is it supposed to be pulsating?
Okay, the next episode we have is episode 12, I Throw a Flawless Dinner Party. And this gets back in the spirit of iCarly in the sense that, like, it's about a bunch of events conspiring and building to lead to one big event, and spoiler alert, that's the dinner party. I like how sitcoms do that with their plots. And this one was not disappointing. So, Wes and Carly are actually a thing. It wasn't just a one-off episode. It seems like these guys are actually casually dating now, so they're starting to get serious. Wes starts talking about his grandmother, and Carly is interested in getting to know her too. Like, she wants to take the relationship really serious, so she invites them over for a dinner party. The episode starts getting a little bit more meaningful, like, in the way How I Met Your Mother was. Like, Spencer is at this stage in his relationship with Harper's cousin where they're starting to fight, they're starting to get out of that normal honeymoon phase. And it's really cool to see insight into that. Like, I remember as a kid growing up, a lot of the things I liked about TV when it came to relationships was, like, seeing how they developed, seeing how, like, they spent time together. You know, like, these dynamics you establish with another person. And it's so interesting to think that, like, with every individual different person in the world, you probably have a different side of yourself that comes out when you're with them. Like, I don't know, that just sounds interesting to me. It's what makes people special, and when you're in the same room, it's like you unlock, like, a new power. I don't know. Millicent is really funny in these episodes. I feel like her one-liners are just really good. So Wes warned Carly that his grandmother is really not pleasant, so it's not super surprising that she's, like, one of the most disrespectful people ever. Like, even shutting down Millicent, a little girl. Like, what the heck? So of course Carly is going to be freaking out the whole time, like, this dinner party has to be perfect. And then next thing you know, everybody's problems come into it. Like, Harper's boss invites herself into it while she's getting ready for putting on a music video for her. Freddie is going to be pitching a new web app, which is kind of fun for him, and he's involved at the dinner party. The way Harper's boss acts in this episode, though, is very irritating to me. Like, she's just asking and making requests for a home she just last minute got invited to. Like, I feel like that's very not cordial. They have some funny references to Carly's cooking, which is so funny. Like, before we're talking about spaghetti tacos, and now we're just seeing this disgusting moving piece of meat. I don't even know what this is. It's gross, though. So this is where it kind of gets chaotic. At the dinner party, Wes's Nana starts to choke, and then Carly tries to help, only making it worse. And it seems like Carly is intentionally trying to kill her, which, come on, Wes, you really think this girl you just met is intentionally trying to kill your grandmother? That is really... I don't know. That's assuming a lot of your grandmother. Spencer and Harper's cousin keep escalating their passive aggressiveness toward each other, and it's, like, so toxic, but it's kind of funny to watch. This next part I audibly laughed at because of how funny it is. So it's, like, such an obvious joke, but it's hilarious. So this is such a generic joke used in, like, literally all sitcoms, but it is so funny. So Carly goes into the room to apologize to Wes and Nona. Nona's laying down on the bed, and Carly is convinced she might be dead. I am too. Like, I'm like, oh my god, Carly, you are screwed. So Carly tries to check her pulse, only for Nona to wake up and think that she is trying to choke her out. And then, of course, Wes walks in. What literal better timing could there be for any kind of crazy outcome like that? So, as you can imagine, the party escalates, things get worse before they get better. Wes and Carly do end up making up, and everybody has a spaghetti taco to celebrate, being friends, I guess. It's kind of funny because it's starting to remind me of that sitcom Friends, like another show about kids living in the city in their mid-teenage years, or sorry, their mid-20s. That's what Friends was, wasn't it? I had a really tough time comparing this episode to any episode I'd seen in the first season, so I kind of looked to the further seasons, and I'm thinking about this show, I'm thinking about the one episode IQ. That's the episode where Carly dates a guy, and it basically is about her trying to match up to his brains, I guess. He has a really high IQ, so Carly's trying to fit in with that. I feel like the whole theme is just outward approval on this one, you know, like a bunch of different things are going on. Everybody's trying to impress somebody, all culminating in this big dinner party. Something I really like in sitcoms is when they have all their stories coincide like this. It's like hard to find an original series episode that's like it because of how good this is. Like, it's almost like I could compare it to like Everybody Loves Raymond or a real sitcom, which is kind of cool.
At least we still have a roof over our heads.
This album is literally rocking my world.
Okay, then we finally have the season finale, I Return to Webicon, something that they've done in the previous series, Webicon. They did iStart a fan war, they had a lot of experiences with fans there. It's essentially like an award show for online people. So everybody comes into this episode with expectations. Carly is excited because it's apparently a glamping trip this year, Webicon. I don't know why they would switch up their format that much, but okay. Harper promised her boss Dutch that she's gonna be able to sing at the Webicon, which confused because it's outdoors and everything. And then Freddie is talking about how he could finally pitch to investors since there's a lot of investors there. Kind of reminds me of like a film festival type scenario. This is still in the picture and he's very stereotypical man where he's like, oh, I wish we brought all this resourcefulness. And that's kind of his whole vibe because he's an auto body guy, I guess. Before the cold open's even over, we see that the trip is a disaster. They're stranded in the woods. So it's essentially a Survivor type episode. Turns out this is Webicon and everything, they just don't have financial resources to go all out, and that's kind of the most real thing I've ever seen. It reminds me of a film festival I went to once where it was like sounding like it was going to be this whole big deal, but then it ended up being just a bunch of people in a room watching a movie. It's so crazy to think how money separates like a really good event from like a really awkward event. At any opportunity of positive experiences like singing or like doing all this stuff, Spencer's like, nope, that'll attract the possums, can't do that. And so it is essentially like a boring retreat. Cool piece of lore, apparently Spencer had lent Freddie money in the past and he'd only lost it. Like, he's embarrassed to say that he lost some of Spencer's money. So when Spencer's trying to cheer him up and is like, no, this is still an opportunity for you to pitch to investors, like maybe I can invest, like Freddie is too much in his own pride to let that happen. So he's like, no, like I'll figure it out on my own, I don't need help from you. Wes and Carly start having disagreements. He's more about survival, she's more about having fun, which makes sense for a social media influencer and an auto body guy. Carly keeps comparing Wes to her old boyfriend, who happens to be there in his own cabin. Yeah, so Bo has his own place here in the woods, kind of sketchy, but kind of a miracle for all of them who don't have anywhere to go. Apparently, he was going to present her the Lifetime Achievement Award, which is insane. She's like in her 20s. Spencer has the idea of targeting Bo as a way of getting Freddie's tech project funded, which is kind of a cool idea. It's fun we have like an actual reason for this character to come back, not just for like Carly or to split up her and Wes, which by the way, him and Wes have a lot of awkward male moments. Wes and Carly start to have some tension, which I totally agree with. Poor Wes has to deal with the fact that her ex is here. What the heck? A storm comes, and next thing you know, they all have to go into Bo's cabin. Oh my god. The storm gets worse and worse with everybody's lives seemingly on the line. Like, this whole thing is about to collapse. And it's so funny because Spencer is just sitting there listening to his headphones the entire time. He doesn't even get like a wink of what everybody else is going through right now. We cut to the next day, and everything is kind of a mess. Like, they're still in the woods, but this time they don't really have a cabin. Harper admits that her and her boss, Dutch, has really hit it off, so I guess they're gonna be a relationship soon? Freddie gets an opportunity to pitch to Bo, and he's like epically failing, so Spencer pretends to be a dog and interrupt. It's so random. Wes tries to make up for the fact that they're fighting, so he builds her this entire stage for her to accept her award anyway, which is actually really sweet. Bo also tries to compete by having an award flown in, and it's so funny because Freddie makes the point that like, wait, we could have gotten out of here this whole time, but you instead flew in an award. Like, it's ridiculous. The guys get in a fight over her, and next thing you know, they're forcing her to choose who to be with. We don't really get an answer to most of these things. It's generally assumed that Carly just lost them both, and we have a little talking head at the end, very Survivor style. Should have done this the whole episode though, honestly. That would have been so much more interesting. I feel like going off to be more about Carly's dating life is a little bit of a step down, considering like that's a general sitcom thing. Like, most shows can do that and do that. Like, this is a show about an influencer. We could definitely lean into the fact that she is an aspiring like web star. Like, I feel like jumping into this is almost taking itself a step down from what it used to be. So the finale isn't such a great representation of the whole show. I feel like the whole show in general did a really good job at being both hilarious, a good sitcom, super relevant, and its cheesiness and references to the original show may feel like out of place sometimes, but it's still totally worth the watch. No iCarly episode really ended with a cliffhanger like this unless we're talking about the Freddie and Sam episodes. So I'm not used to like a finale leading to something. It's cool that they're taking this like traditional sitcom route of like trying to keep us invested at the end of 13 episodes, considering that's not a lot of episodes compared to the real series. Overall, a super fun experience, and I definitely recommend it if you want to go down nostalgia lane, maybe revisit how some of the old episodes inspire the new ones. Like, it's totally worth the watch. If we're comparing it to the original series, I feel like the only reason it wouldn't win is because of the amount of episodes. Like, the original show had more time to have more memorable moments, more exciting experiences. This show seemed to not take advantage of the fact it only had 13 and tried to shove a little too much at the same time, calling for unnatural situations like awkward character beats. It just doesn't feel as polished as it could be, and the original show was really good. This show was definitely worth watching. So as we step into season 2, season 3, I feel like we really gotta buckle down and take this show really seriously, because it's worth being up there with all the most recent shows. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been so fun going through all the original Teen Nick shows as well as some of the reboots. I did Wizards of Waverly Place, I'm doing the iCarly one. It's just so fun to see how 2000s nostalgia lends itself to the times today. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and for more 2000s content, check out Johnny 2000. Have a great day, everybody.